Good evening. It's Monday, January 27th, and this is a meeting of the Southborough Planning Board. The Planning Board is now in session. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing, proposed ADU accessory dwelling unit bylaw and regulations.
And I will read the public hearing ad. This is the public hearing notice to amend the town code for accessory dwelling units, ADU, in accordance with Chapter 150, Section 7 and 8 of the Acts of 2024. For MGL 40A, Section 5, the Planning Board of the Town of Southborough shall hold a public hearing on Monday, January 27th at 2025 at 8:30 p.m. in the McAuliffe Hearing Room, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass., and via Zoom to consider amending the town code to include a new section and to delete language not conforming to the new state requirements for accessory dwelling units by right. This hearing concerns the proposed addition of new language for ADUs by right as part of the state's housing bill. A copy of the application and plans may be viewed at the planning office at the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours or at the Planning Board Agenda Center at www.southboroughma.gov/agenda center/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or join virtually at the following link, www.southboroughma.com/674/virtual-meetings. That's it. Want me to give a brief update?
Yeah.
All right, so we've been having discussions on the planning board meetings on this topic. Public hearing is required. Planning board public hearing is required for zoning amendments. So this was advertised and with public notification to run a legal ad in the newspaper, which was run on January 13th and January 20th for a public hearing to open this evening. In the interim, we've had town council prepared an original draft. It's been reviewed by the planning board. Final regulations for the EOHLC were posted, although there's still a comment period open. Town council also provided another revision based on those new regulation, or they're not new, but somewhat modified regulations. In the planning board packet for this evening, that red line is not in there. It's the most current one we had before this afternoon. And during the public hearing, we can explain that, I think there was one change that town council made. All right. We received a couple of so the draft bylaw was also distributed to various town departments for review and comment. And we received comment from Mr. Paul Cotter, 6 Hills, Hillside Ave, recommending that the proposed ADU bylaw reserve the powers given to the Zoning Board of Appeals be retained by the planning board under Section E site plan approval of a garage for an ADU. He says, I believe that design regulation should sit with the planning board, including special permits, and that appeal of the planning board decisions and variances from dimensional requirements shall be the main power of the Zoning Board of Appeals. They should not be the design review board. I think it is also important not to split design approval between 2 separate boards. It is a recipe for problems, as we see with 40Bs. Please share my comments with the rest of the board. So those were forwarded to the planning board. We also received questions from the Southborough Public Access Committee, SPAC, which is for ADA compliance, accessible. Bill Sines had a question whether ADUs were required to be handicap accessible and if they're rentals, and we discussed with the building commissioner and he said, no, they do not have to be accessible. And we responded to Bill on that. The building commissioner, Chris Lund, I had asked him one question, what his approach was anticipated to be during the time from February 2nd, when the law takes effect, to April 7th, when the town meeting happens. And whether it passes or not. And he said that they're going to follow the state regulations for protected ADUs per the EOHLC and the town's current bylaw for unprotected ADUs, as written currently, if the proposed ADU does not qualify as protected. So that's his anticipated approach. So he has a plan in the interim. He also had some questions and comments under the proposed bylaw language for parking D3. The construction of a new garage to serve an ADU shall require special permit from the Board of Appeals. He wasn't quite clear on how to apply this requirement. Asking, is this for a garage shown attached in a proposal to a new protected ADU? There were some comments he had on that. I can, this was forwarded to everybody. If you want me to read the whole comment, I can. He said gross floor area definition is state draft reg. The sum of the areas of all floors of the building, including basements, cellars, mezzanine, and intermediate floor tiers and penthouses of headroom height measured from the exterior faces of exterior walls or from the center line of walls separating buildings but excluding covered walkways, open roofed areas, porches, and similar spaces, and 2 pipe trenches, exterior terraces or steps, chimneys, roof overhauls, and similar features. My interpretation is that a garage would go against the 900 square foot max for a protected ADU. That was a lot in one, but I forwarded this email to everybody if they want to previously. And then number 2, proposed garage only with potential later to be converted to an ADU question. I'm assuming no, but want to confirm because this would be difficult to determine. So a proposed garage only with the potential later to be converted to an ADU, question mark. It's difficult to comprehend that this information read like this, but we have a copy of this. If anybody doesn't, we can get you that. Okay, and
Too smart for me.
yeah, it's tricky.
God.
And the last thing is Lara Davis, as the ZBA admin, had broached the subject of, well, what do we do with the unprotected ADUs that come before the building department and the zoning board of appeals still as the jurisdiction for unprotected, which is over 900 square feet or doesn't meet the protected requirements. Right now, the bylaw is written that we just strike everything, I believe, and this becomes the new bylaw, but it doesn't address when somebody comes in, and it would prohibit if somebody wanted to come in with a larger ADU, according to the current bylaw, like following that bylaw. So we posed that question, and Lara was still waiting for clarification, but that's something probably we have to think about. Somebody comes in with a, I don't know, a 1,200 square foot ADU, and all we have is the protected use ADU.
So the question was, as I understood it, whether we could just leave what's there and then would add this at town meeting. So this would be accessory dwelling unit, and then we just leave the accessory apartment as is.
So if you don't meet the protected criteria, you could still move forward with seeking a special permit for an accessory apartment through the ZBA like they do now.
If I could have my cake and eat it too, I would want this. I'd like to have the bylaw changed to have consistent language. So just make it 2 separate sections, protected and unprotected. Anything that does not meet the protected requirements is an unprotected ADU in the existing bylaw applies, but I just don't know what is or is not permitted. I don't know if I'm live or not. For the, to have the bylaws by simple majority. I know that's a motivation.
Nothing with the special permit.
What's that?
Nothing with the special permit. So an
Good.
unprotected would require a special permit.
But would it? Because the laws are on the books. It's just amending. What's it currently called?
in our code?
accessory,
What's what?
Accessory apartments as opposed to ADUs.
Mike, can you just say who you are? Because
Oh, I'm
we have a new
sorry. Of
recording
course.
clerk.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. It's Michael Robbins, 47 Deerfoot Road, member of the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you.
So it's what's ever simplest. If we could have it captured under one, great. If we need to split the baby to get through town meeting, I think we can reasonably split the baby. It's the zoning board had questions about this at our last meeting. We have the bylaws on the books for essentially ADUs now, whatever we want to call them. And it's just really two categories. If it's a protected ADU, it's going to fall under this set of categories and it's going to be permitted. And if it's not, like if they want a 12, then they need to seek a special permit and or variance from the zoning board. I think it's pretty straightforward. So it's the easiest way to accomplish that, though.
The other two things, at the last meeting, we had two questions. We wanted clarification from town council on the no ADU could be more closer to the frontage than the primary dwelling. And we wanted to know whether what Jay was trying to protect us from, and he basically said that that's many other towns wanted that, so he put it in, but you know, he has no issue with it. And the same with there was a prohibition for tandem parking, and pretty much the same thing, although he said that tandem parking is bad policy, but he was fine. So either of those are fine. Mr. Stein.
So just semantics, when we say protected, we mean by right. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me that we would have this just being an added path for a by right, not needing special permit, and leave the remaining ability to obtain a special permit for anything that doesn't fit this. I had a question about numbers 3 and F. Number 3 in section C, which seems to be related to paragraph F, related to non-conforming. So I don't know, Karina, do you mind just kind of taking me through? Let's start with C3 and just explain this paragraph.
I don't
Please.
have the complete background on number 3. I do on the other two. Mimi, do you have, can you jump in on?
So that was a question that came up at the last meeting. If you have a non-conforming structure, can you turn an ADU into it? And I think you have some garage or something that's close to your property line.
That's
and
exactly,
could you put an ADU on the
use
top?
that as that hypothetical.
So-
That's a pre-existing non-conforming structure that could fit into the ADU protected class. And so, you know, again, I was just using that as an illustration of, all right, so that's already pre-existing non-conforming. That structure isn't changing in any way except its quote unquote use. So that's where 3 came into play.
So I am not so sure about this personally. I think if it's non-conforming, it might not make sense to have this be part of the by right path. Sorry?
I'm sorry, mumbling over here. I think that's in the state guidelines that pre-existing non-conforming, oh, I'm sorry, pre-existing non-conforming is allowed to have these ADUs.
That's in the state model?
I
That's,
think So,
State regs.
that hasn't been finalized, but that's been the push on that. Because again, as long as the petitioner is not adding to the nonconformity, the state wants to allow for housing, ergo they're going to allow for existing non-conforming structures to be changed. That use is going to be allowed to be changed by right.
So then, but then it says conversions of existing non-conforming non-residential accessory structures. What does that mean?
barns,
Say what?
Like a
barns.
garage or a shed or a barn.
That's correct.
I think that we might need a little bit more clarity on this aspect because that opens up a lot of different things, in my opinion. Unless town council sees it differently or somebody can convince me I'm incorrect. I'm a little concerned that just saying non-conforming, non-residential, can somehow be utilized this way.
Yeah,
It's not so much what you have there, it's the zone that it's in. If there's single-family housing allowed, or multifamily, or 3 families, they're allowed to have an ADU.
yeah. So the idea would be, Jesse, so I'll use my next door neighbors. They have a garage that's on site. Let's say it meets all the building code requirements. So that's a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And so what the state is pushing for is to say, hey, listen, as long as it meets health, safety code, as long as it's conforming with septics, all of those things, and you're not adding to the nonconformity, they want to have that space be usable for accessory dwelling. What they don't want is obstacles to that housing.
So then, does anybody understand section F, relationship to nonconformities? If an ADU is proposed for a pre-existing nonconforming single-family residence, the requirements of this shall apply, provided that no special permit may consider the ADU use. What is it? So is that saying, I don't even understand that.
I ask a question? What exactly is 14-19B?
Well, can we answer my question first, Jack?
I'm sorry, you said you got to that and then you said this.
No, so what I'm saying is I don't understand paragraph F. I'm asking somebody to explain.
I'm with you.
What's it-
So were you asking something about that?
I'm asking something of paragraph F, 14-19B and 14-19C.
Okay.
Can somebody tell me what that is?
So maybe somebody can answer both of our questions
Yes.
at the same time.
My thinking was that the special permit may be for a larger use of the
I don't.
non-conforming building. So I think I took it to say that if you have pre-existing non-conforming, you can't apply a special permit to make it,
Maybe that's it.
I'm not exactly sure. You
I
can't
think-
get out of it with a special permit.
I think Jack's question, and he asked me earlier, sections 14-9B is in Bravo and 14-19C is in Charlie. And I didn't have an answer to that question. So are those the zoning bylaw references? But I just don't have all the data in front of me.
So Karina, maybe we could ask town council to clarify.
1419B, yeah, see, that's the non-conforming.
Which code is that?
Our zoning
You need
code
your
174.
Oops, sorry. 174.
I looked, I didn't see it.
So Jesse, I'm sorry, I'm confused too.
Well, we definitely need town council for paragraph F at this point. And I appreciate Mr. Robbins's explanation. I just would prefer verification from town council that this is something we have to have, so to speak, for the state. And that's it for me.
What section was that, Jesse? I'm sorry.
Section C, paragraph 3. Section F.
In section F.
There's no number, just F.
Can I say one more thing?
Public hearing, you can.
Is this a misprint? Is this 14 supposed to be 174? Is that supposed to be one?
Oh, it-
As I was
yes.
looking for section 14. and it's
Yes,
not.
you're
That's
correct.
it.
So those are misprints. So that's 174. That makes more sense now.
Yes,
Extensions, alterations, reconstruction, and structural
Yeah,
changes.
now it's in,
So that's what Jay's referring to.
yes.
Basically making alterations to existing non-conforming structures.
yeah, and what he's saying that those are you don't need a special permit.
That's
to be
exactly right.
non-conforming.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you. So, Karina, thank you for your overview. That was super helpful. So I just wanted to raise some of the points that came up and just discuss them. So, the whole point on the garages, so I understand DPW's, he doesn't understand it, and I think that's something we have to talk about. But I think we were pretty clear that if people are saying they have to create a garage, the ADU by right, but now we're building a garage, this isn't included. So it's a very separate thing. So I just think we need clarity that DPW understands that we're just saying a garage does not factor into the 900 square feet of the ADU unless they make it the ADU. But if they need a separate garage, then that's a whole nother process that they have to pursue.
Okay, and that's Chris Lund.
Oh,
building
sorry, it was
commissioner.
Chris,
That's
okay.
Just for the record.
Building inspector, okay.
Building inspector.
And then I was also just gonna make mention to Paul Carter's comment around the garage design should come back to us. And I don't think it does. I think zoning board looks at people's designs all the time and make decision, and they understand the goal of trying to keep within the design of the land, and like that's within your purview. So
Totally.
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it should stay with the zoning board personally. So I just wanted to address Paul's comment on that it should come back to the planning board
For a garage?
for a garage, for the design in the garage. I just think it's okay. I mean, you guys do that all the time.
Is that with the intent of creating the ADU up top? Just the,
No, that was a separate garage structure. That was part of parking, number C. Or not C, D, number 3. The construction of a new garage to serve an ADU. And I guess, I don't know if we have to qualify it and say that if this construction, if this is not included in the 900 square feet, I don't know if we need some sort of qualifier, but I think that's the intent of what this is meant to say, not subject to interpretation from what Chris was worrying about.
And not confusing it with an abbreviated site plan approval.
Correct. So Laura raised the points around the not deleting the 174.9B accessory apartments. And so, Mike, I know you made the comment, like, it would be great if we just had an unprotected or a protected piece of it. I do
Yeah.
think that moves it to the 2/3.
Okay,
So I'm inclined to say we keep the accessory apartments as is. And so we can't like delete the definition of accessory apartment here and make those amendments, get this through, come back next year and say, we're blending the.
totally
worlds
understand
together.
that.
And I think that just will be a little bit easier for our town to digest.
I think that's fine. I
Okay.
do. In a perfect world, we don't live in. So. Just quickly, I did have a question. Did we hear back from Board of Health on my questions about septic? Was there any comment or reply?
No, I have not. heard
Okay.
anything back, but I can reach out again.
If you don't mind, that'd be a great help because I think that's going to be one of the biggest primary issues for ADUs, whether they're protected or unprotected in Southborough. So it's just, we want to get on the same page with all the boards on that.
So forgive me, Marnie, can you just summarize that last comment you had about the approach to,
Yeah, so Laura recommended that we don't delete 174.9B, which is the accessory apartments,
Mhm,
because they serve for anything that doesn't qualify as a by right, so 900 square feet.
Mhm.
So we should keep that, and then we just need to amend this bylaw to exclude the point about deleting the definition of an accessory apartment and deleting section 174-9B and making sure that they can live together in harmony. I think we just need to review both to make sure there's nothing that needs to be administratively handled in a separate action.
so that we don't lose the simple majority vote.
Correct.
That's it.
So we check that with town council. Okay. Got you. So in essence, keep both, make sure it works. And I think that's what town council alluded to in his email back when we asked him. He said, to Lara, I think he said it would sync back together. I could be mistaken.
That's my understanding as well.
Okay, we couldn't quite understand the response, but it sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, I think I'm hoping that's the case.
But simply just fixing those two items
Right.
to keep.
And we just need to have eyes on both, read through, make sure there isn't any language that competes with each other.
That's it.
Right?
mean,
And
that-
I just
that-
don't think we've paid attention to that enough to be able to say, is there anything in conflict?
Yeah, it's basically, we're just adding a new section. That's all we're doing. I think that'll be the clearest way to split that baby.
And then the only other comment was, I don't remember who recommended it in the variety of different comments we've received, but it was the no mobile home, no trailer. And where does that get inserted? Because I didn't see it.
Right, in the new regulations we're calling final regulations, I believe, Mimi, you were telling me today that they dropped that section of MGL out of,
Yeah, the definition for,
Mimi, did you get the new regs? I've been looking for those. I thought they were coming out this week, but I haven't seen them.
they came out.
They came out like Tuesday. but they
This
won't
was
be-
after the public comment period?
I think there is still.
Well, it's still public comment, so it's final in quotation mark.
Yeah, I was told by.
But it's what
According to the government.
it's what they've published to be
Okay.
there.
Okay,
They
all
don't
right.
expect it to change.
Okay. I
January
was
17th.
January 7th.
2020.
Okay.
And I believe town council
I think I have
sent
those.
that
then.
email.
No, I have those then. I was thinking.
They're
like,
the
is there a
unofficial
new-
copy of the final.
I was, you
There's
beat
a
me
red
to
one,
it.
too.
Yeah, okay. I have those then. I thought the final regs had been issued.
Yeah, so they removed that section of the Mass General Law from the modular dwelling unit, but I don't know if that means you can't prohibit trailers or mobile homes. So that's probably a town council question.
Yeah, so is that clear? So in the regulations, there was a definition modular dwelling unit. And it referred to a modular dwelling unit shall not include a manufactured home such as those defined in MGL 140, section 32Q, which was manufactured home defined. So it's kind
So
of
they've
strange.
cut that.
I think they took that reference out of the new
New
final
regulation.
regs, yeah.
I don't think it was pertaining to mobile homes.
But I guess the question is, does an ADU by right apply to a mobile home?
Yeah, so the question is.
That goes back to town council.
Yes, and there
Okay.
was a feeling from the little zoning group that we should prohibit that if we
Yes.
can.
So we need to elevate that then to J?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure we covered that one.
So the comment was to include prohibiting mobile
Homes,
and where would that?
trailers,
fit?
as a by right ADU,
Correct.
Right,
but we couldn't prohibit
Probably
people
under
from having
D.
a mobile home on their property,
No.
right?
okay.
But
Well,
if
they
it's
are
being
for 30 days.
used as an accessory dwelling unit, that we can prohibit by right, so to speak, like. Good luck policing.
Right, can
that.
I ask, right, can I ask a simple question? Like, I honestly, I work with a woman, she's not in the state, but she works in North Carolina, and she uses her mobile home as her office. And so she goes every day and works out of her office in her mobile home. So would that be considered an accessory dwelling unit?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
I think habitation is the issue.
So sleeping over, okay, because I just want to make
I
sure we,
think the legal standard is more than 3 consecutive nights in any given week.
okay,
I could be mistaken. That could be Rhode Island's, but it's either 3 or 4. Basically, if you're sleeping there for more than 3 or 4 nights every single week, it's considered habitation as opposed to use.
right. And who's going to police that at the end of the day? We just want to put it in our bylaw that says
The
an
neighbors.
ADU by right does not mean a
The
trailer or
neighbors.
mobile home.
Hello. Problem.
Jesse, to swing back to your question on F, we did ask town council for clarification, and he said that this applies if the primary dwelling is already non-compliant non-complying. By definition, if the primary house is already non-compliant, the ADU would increase the non-conformity. This has nothing to do with the use.
Might
Are
be
you
nice if town
clarified?
Council zooms into the next hearing and can help us in person, well, in Zoom.
It's that legal speak. We need it in layman terms. What does that actually translate to? Because we're gonna have to sell it to town meeting.
And note that in the red line version that I passed out this afternoon from town council, he does comment that on that part F, it says this issue is still being debated, but I recommend that you keep it in his review comment. So it's not really a change from the prior version. He just called out a note that it's being reviewed, it's being debated.
So I think this means that 174-19B and C apply if the house is already non-compliant in whether the ADU use isn't factoring into that at all. The house is already non-compliant. So you'd need a special permit. That's how but I think we should ask Jay to help us. Ms.
So if the answer is you have to go for a special permit, moot point. If that's what it means, but I'm not quite clear on that.
Well, so that section, if certain things apply for single and two-family dwellings, I think if certain things apply, like if you don't have a side setback, but everything else, then you don't need a special permit. So there's certain
Yeah.
A, B, C,
I
D
think Mr.
things.
Talaman should come to a meeting.
That's all for me, Mimi.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Hi, okay, so just a couple questions. I just wanted to say I support conversion of non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming buildings on, to ADUs. I think we've seen a couple show up at the ZBA. They're clever, outbuildings and previous, barns and things like that. I think that's kind of cool. I wanted to talk about Jay's comments. So he mentioned tandem. He clarified that, and he also mentioned the ADUs that are in the front of the primary structure. I don't have a problem with that. I know that some people do, so I kind of want to maybe just hear about that. I do think that people that have lots, that the house primary structure is set back, they may not have a particular issue. We've seen some plans come through where it actually improved the look of the building. I think that's very possible. I think Jackie might have mentioned something as well. It's very possible that it could look nice. I want to make sure that it doesn't, I think that we'd have to write that paragraph in because we don't have that right now, right? For example, if, it could not become more, it has to adhere to the setbacks and everything. That's in there. Okay. So what about garage? So I think one thing that I'm having a little bit difficulty is if you have an ADU, are you entitled also to a garage? Is that in the law? Are we just going to say yes? Because that
A garage
re-
for the ADU?
I think that's when we're discussing that, isn't that what we're talking
I
about?
think it's in here somewhere that you're not.
So is it the parking part? Construction of a new garage to serve the ADU shall require special permit from the Board of Appeals?
Check.
Okay, and then I had. I had just
Special
one
permit.
other question. Does it say planning board anywhere in this ADU bylaw?
Well, that was going to be my comment, that I think the
Because
site
everything's Board of
plan should
Appeals.
be
Yeah,
planning board. We do that now.
yeah, for which one?
For the abbreviated site plan,
Yeah.
E,
G,
E,
E, yep.
E in the last paragraph in E.
Yeah, that was my main comment too.
Elsa? Ms. Brusher?
That was my main comment as well, and Marnie had actually asked another question that I had, so I'm all set.
Great. What were mine? Oh, so the question, so that section that the ADU can't be further towards the frontage than the primary dwelling has been taken out. There was a discussion the last time that if you were to build a detached, new detached, that you wouldn't want that more closer to the frontage. I don't know if that, the zoning discussion group that we had didn't really see an issue with that. I don't know if there's any opinion on that here, because it's just out now, that section.
That used to be number 5, C5. ADU shall be designed and constructed so that no portion of it shall be closer to the front lot line than the primary dwelling. So that has been stricken.
Yes.
So is there any opinion on detached, or just leave that as is? Okay.
And then Jesse, I did want to just bring to your attention the regulations. I didn't have it in front of me at the time, but it's section 9 of the most revised regulation. Pre-existing non-conforming structure, a municipality may not prohibit the development of a protected use ADU in an existing structure or principal dwelling or due to lot non-conformance. That could be. I'm reading the state regulations.
We have it, it's in the Dropbox.
It is, okay.
So, but to your question about that, it's explicitly listed in the code.
Mike, state again, what paragraph are you reading?
That's
Is it
section 9
this is
from the January 17th
760 CMR 71,
section.
protected use, January 17th, 2025.
Yep,
Page, or
that's page 7 of 8, section, paragraph 9.
I just want to show, so.
Mike, just a quick question. Jesse's comment was specifically about non-residential. You're speaking about
Ah.
residential. So that's his question.
Got it. Then I misunderstood. It just speaks to an existing structure or principal dwelling that could be used for or converted into a protected use ADU.
But there would have to be a primary dwelling on that lot
Already,
already.
because it has to be accessory to the primary dwelling. But I don't think it has to be currently used
As a dwelling.
as a dwelling.
This is why, like I said before. I was just saying that this is why, it's really good to have town council weigh in on these things, because we can speculate till the cows come home, but we need to know definitively in order to, do this, in my opinion.
So can we ask for town council to join our next hearing?
Yes.
So I think those, all the questions I have, other board members had. Anything else? Yes, sir.
All right, John Bartolini, 4 Wire Circle. Since I'm thinking about it with what Jesse just said, the non-residential in this town, we're a little bit unique in that we have residences that are living prior to zoning, are living in on Route 9, down on Route 30, and in different areas. So I think that you have a resident that it could have a business. I'm going to take Tempting Interiors, Tim Higgins' old place. He had an apartment above there. He ran it as a business, but he did have an apartment. Then he sold it, I think, to his nephew who lived upstairs and then ran it downstairs. Now I think there's a law office there. So there's things like that scattered throughout the town. So that's just one thing. The big thing that I have, that I'm asking about here is, I agree, there's nothing here. This is by right. So it doesn't say you're going to the planning board, but for some reason, you're the paragraph just before F Says you're going to the Board of Appeals.
Yeah, so, so we want this, well, just for the abbreviated site plan, but the board would like it to be the planning board because we do that now. We do
Right,
kind of
Board
an
of Appeals
abbreviated,
Wouldn't be involved at all.
not unless there's,
It's
unless it's an
unprotected.
accessory apartment or if you're building a garage for an ADU.
Yeah.
Or a garage for the ADU.
That was my question. So the ZBA, so if someone came to me and wanted this done, I'd just go to the building inspector. He'd send me to you for like we usually do.
Abbreviated. Yeah, yeah,
Abbreviated, like a one night.
yeah.
If it's simple enough. then
Yeah.
that would be it.
Yeah.
Because I really think, and I want to go back, this is going to be for the person who are ill, who need their children to move back for whatever reason. We laughed at failure to launch, but that's one of them. You know,
It's
there's a
no
variety of
laughing
reasons.
matter, Jack.
Yeah. So I don't think you're going to get a big rush of these coming in. I really don't. That's it. That's all I got.
And to your comment on residents and business zones, so this is allowed in any zone except for industrial park, any zone that allows single-family dwellings, which industrial park does not. So every other zone in town. If there's a principal dwelling on the lot,
Okay, I
you
was
can
just
put
trying
an
to get
ADU.
back to Jesse with that because I hesitated on that same paragraph and everything. And, you know, non-conforming pre-existing, which a lot of the town has. I mean, a lot of the town is.
Yeah,
So hopefully if you can come to the next one when town council's here, so we can
We'll
kind of
get some
this straightened out,
clarification.
because, and it's kind of hard because I wouldn't expect town council to necessarily be a real estate expert. But in this case, we're going to kind of need them to, you know, try.
Well, you could be the expert on paper, but when you got to do the nuts and bolts, it's
Right.
a little different.
you may.
So Mike, in the draft bylaw, under parking D3, the construction of a new garage to serve an ADU shall require a special permit from the Board of Appeals. That in no way will trigger a 2/3 vote, right?
Oh, the 2/3 vote questions are definitely not my.
Okay.
One thing I have no idea about is what is that whole thing seems crazy to me, but like,
Well, I.
wait a minute, we're
figured-
changing a bylaw.
I
but-
think that's a Jake question.
Yeah, that is
But
100,
This is going to be.
the regs, the
This-
bylaw, the language, sure, but
It's going to be.
as far as votes and what's needed and what's
simple
not,
majority
no.
Is what they're telling me.
Right, so the goal is to keep the simple majority, but the question was, and I think Lara brought this up to me when we were talking about.
I don't think that would, because that's not dealing with an actual ADU.
Right.
That's if you want to build a protected or unprotected ADU. If you want to add a new garage to that, you're going to need a special permit. So my
Yeah,
instinct
someone-
is no, but I have no knowledge of the laws and the language in that field.
Yeah.
As far
Well-
as reading the regs, I can hit that out of the park.
Okay, I assume that since town council drafted this version, that it was with that understanding. But we'll have to confirm that.
Let's never assume. That's a
Not assume. It's
odd
a
couple
dangerous word.
learning.
Yes, all right, so I'm gonna circle that too. That's D3. D3, does this trigger? Trigger-
And just to note another wonky question that drove me crazy with the last regs, that it said principal dwelling already had a protected ADU on it. They fixed that in the new. They put at least one dwelling in is or will be located on the same lot with the protected ADU. So that made me feel much better.
So only one ADU per lot, only one protected ADU per lot. And it doesn't matter what else is on the lot as long as there's not another ADU. In other words, you couldn't have an unprotected ADU and add an ADU. You only have one ADU, period. on the
No,
lot.
I was told that it's by special permit. You can go over and above.
Well, you'd have to have that in your bylaw.
Yeah, so you can, so that makes it so you can have more than one ADU on a lot.
But if you did that within this bylaw, it would trigger the 2/3.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So you need a principal dwelling on the lot.
Mhm. Whether it's a two-family or a three-family
Any,
in a
any,
residentially allowed.
Yeah.
In a zone that allows residential use. One ADU per lot under this bylaw.
correct.
Just wanted to.
Anything else? Is there anyone else have any questions or comments on ADU? Anyone in the
Please say
Zoom-
no.
Zoom land?
Kidding,
One hand,
kidding.
James Nichols.
So make a motion to,
Wait,
Okay.
Jesse, there's a hand raised. Sorry.
Oh,
Can't
so
see.
hello, folks.
Hi, James.
Hi, James.
Glad I tuned in. I saw this on the agenda and just want to thank you all for all that's going into this to combine with the state regulations.
If
You
you
know,
could just identify yourself and
Oh,
your address.
sorry.
Sorry, James.
Hi, James Nichols Worley, 94 Main Street.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Really, really great discussion. Looking forward to seeing this at town meeting. It'd be there's this story. I think it's a select board member in Franklin who lives in an ADU, so it can be big for the town. So thank you.
You're welcome.
a move that we continue the public hearing for proposed accessory dwelling units, ADU bylaw and regulations to February 10th, 2025 at 6:30 PM.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, proposed zoning amendments for shared parking.
Give me 1 second, I'll read the legal ad. for you. Okay, this is the public hearing notice zoning amendment for shared parking. Per section MGL 48, section 5, the planning board of the town of Southborough shall hold a public hearing on Monday, January 27th, 2025 at 6:30 PM in the McAuliffe Hearing Room, 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass, and via Zoom to consider amending the town code regarding shared parking. These hearings are to add new language to shared parking in chapter 174-9 and 174-9 and 174-12, and to delete language as appropriate. A copy of the application and plans may be viewed at the planning office at the Southborough Townhouse during normal business hours or at the Planning Board Agenda Center at southboroughma.gov/agenda center/planning-board-29. Any person wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated or join virtually at the following link, www.southboroughma.gov/674/virtual-meeting. This zoning amendment was appropriately referred from the select board to the planning board as required for a public hearing for a zoning amendment. An ad was run in the paper on January 13th and January 20th. And I believe towns and agencies were notified as well. And this was distributed, the initial draft to the town departments for review. And I just want to see if we received any comments. So this warrant, this draft bylaw language was prepared by Lara Davis and the Zoning Board of Appeals. And it was reviewed by town council, and the current version has town council's red line It was included in the meeting packet for tonight on the agenda center as well. Let's see what we have. And I think that's all. I don't believe we received, I think there was no comments from the building department, if I'm not mistaken, unless you saw that, but that's where we are now.
Mr. Stein.
So what's the point of this? What are we trying to get done here?
The point of this is to, couple of things, is to have an opportunity to reduce paving in town with major site plans to allow different entities to share parking. In other words, we have some limited ability for that. If you own property contiguous, you can use land next to you. But this new language would allow two different property owners to utilize each other's land as long as they were within 500 feet of each other.
This is commercial, obviously.
Yeah, it's more geared towards commercial.
So two different owners of two different buildings
Yeah.
could have a third parcel that would be the lot.
Well, you could have two property owners and you don't necessarily have enough parking on your site, but you could utilize parking on another site owned by somebody else as long as there was an agreement for that.
And that's currently not allowed in our code.
I think you have to have same ownership for your parking. And I believe it needs to be contiguous.
And how is that going to be determined? Is this like through is this a special permit? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right, it's
so,
a
so,
special permit.
so the two businesses would basically apply with the planning board for a special permit for shared parking, right?
Which would leave it less than what's really required.
What's that? I can't hear you.
It reduces, I'm sorry, it reduces the parking that is required because you can share so many spaces. So it makes
Uh-huh.
it less parking.
So, but yeah, my question was like, as far as application, so the
Right.
two businesses would be applying jointly.
No, what would happen is if an applicant comes in for major site plan approval and he requires additional space for parking or wants to work out some additional parking to share because he doesn't have enough parking on his lot, he can make an agreement with another property owner
okay.
under certain criteria, but it's the applicant for the site plan whose project it is, it's their obligation to get a special permit from the planning board during site plan approval.
Is it a separate permit for the parking or is it just saying this can be part of a special permit application?
Well, according to the language, it's a special permit. It's a separate,
It's its own public hearing, its own
it would have to be,
application.
yeah, to meet, because in the,
Okay,
in.
I'm not, I'm fine
Okay.
with it. I just didn't understand it. Thank
Because
you.
there's a line added in 174-9 special permits that, just to be clear, because I want to have it clear in my head too here. It says here that very end proposed under 174-9K shared parking. A special permit may be granted for shared parking by the planning board as outlined in 174-12G. And so in 12G, there's items that tell you what you have to do that. Okay, sorry.
Ms. Houlihan.
I have no questions and appreciate your, all your contributions to writing the bylaw.
Mr. Maria.
I have no questions. I think it's nicely done. Thank you.
Ms. Brascio.
I as well. Thank you.
And I have nothing either. Anyone, Mr. Bartolini?
Not gonna be so easy. I agree with Jesse. What are we doing this for? It says here in the dimensional requirements, it says C2, parking, dimensional parking. Two or more non-residential uses may share a combined facility provided that its continued availability is assured and the total number of spaces equals or exceeds the number required by this section. Doesn't that mean you can combine parking spaces? And it doesn't require a
So
lot of
that,
thought.
that has been removed.
Well, you
and
want to
replace.
It's in there now. You want to remove it, and then you're going to put it in with special permits.
I mean, would that not make it more onerous on an applicant if they have to do a separate special permit?
Yeah, you're
That's
doing,
the
now
case, I
now
don't
you're coming,
understand why
I
we're
mean, if you
doing
take the special permit out of this, but this, nowhere does this reduce pavement, not a single spot.
And that's what the effort to do. So
Well, that's not it may be the intent, but that's not what you're doing.
Well, it's not necessarily someone builds additional parking on a separate location owned by somebody else. It's,
Permissible borrowing.
yes, that
That's
the
the
parking
fact.
already exists. So if a bank operates during business hours
Hmm.
and a residential property, or I don't know if that's a good example, but another business
know
has a
exactly.
nighttime use, or
a restaurant.
then
or
they
coffee shop.
they could complement each other. The parking would already be there perhaps, but they complement each other. So
So if
during,
you're two businesses side by side,
yeah, like a strip mall,
and you
say.
want one to go,
Yeah.
that's the other question I have is, aren't you negating the multi-tenant already?
You know something though, I've never seen in any site plan, any applicant use that. So there must be a reason why.
I've used it. That's why I know,
And with this board,
not this board. Those-
so
So this was initiated by the building commissioner. And we had a working group put together to establish some ability to do this, because on Turnpike Road, I believe it was, is it 257 or somewhere over there, there was a building, there was a building that initially was one large lot with two buildings on it. And in history, they A&R'd the lot and split it, but they now have shared parking. So there's an easement, and I think it came before the board on some other instance. They had some changes there. So there's shared parking in the middle so that both sides are allowed to have certain amount of parking on the other person's property, or one has allowance to use the other person's parking area, because they had excess for their use, but just so happens it was built. Right.
So
If you recall, that was a 257 and 259. Yeah, right.
So, but why, so they didn't even come before your board, they just did it.
No, this was done long ago, and they had an easement to use those parking spaces.
This is down.
So
by
I
Lights
think
Corner.
this was the building commissioner's process to try and open this up a little bit to make it easier. I believe that property, the two properties, and Shannon, you can correct me, Shannon is with Capital Group Properties. Those are both owned by the same person, right? So Capital Group Properties owns both of those lots now because it was subdivided. And so therefore they can share parking. This would allow shared parking between not the same entities. You could have a lot next door and you could create that, but they wanted to have some control. We wanted to have some control over it with being a special permit doing site plan.
so I have this gift of seeing the future.
Yes.
And I'm looking, I'm envisioning I'm envisioning town meeting, and I'm already hearing Mr. Bartolini at the microphone at town meeting
No, I'm,
saying, we don't need to do this. It's already in the code and it failing. I'm just saying, I
I'm
can
not
easily
there yet.
see
I'm just,
It's not,
wondering.
that happening.
But-
So I just would recommend that,
it's not there to the extent this is there. I'm just saying, why is it a special permit?
right,
And then you've got all these regs, but you said, well, we're reducing pavement, and everything. You're not.
But I
That's all.
think they would be. So I think the idea is, so let's say you're proposing a new commercial structure and your site doesn't have sufficient parking ideally for your needs, or you'd have to eat some additional space where you have a non-similarly owned entity next door. You could come into an agreement next door and add that to your full site plan. Am I wrong? There it is.
So you can come in here with a lease, 20-year lease, and then you're gonna build a building and say, all right, I've leased this, tied up this other parking lot for 20 years. Is that what you want to do?
I can't answer that. but I want to point out one additional thing, and I'm not discounting your question. But another aspect of this, and Colleen just brought this to my attention, is, and I think Chris Lund explained it at one of the select board meetings, Kathy, that the density requirements for some of the uses in our parking code were more intense.
Got
And
it.
this was a way to
Alleviate that.
alleviate some of that density pressure for parking. So your parking calcs were requiring, I don't know, 200 spaces, but you wouldn't really be using
That's right.
200 spaces.
That was done in the 2008 master plan, where we want to shrink parking spaces for just 6 inches, which would save on 50 parking spaces, you save 25 feet.
Yeah, same kind of deal, just a different way
But
to.
this is a special permit. You're not entitled to this. You're not entitled to the shared parking.
If
Right,
you're
'cause we
using,
have to make sure it works.
That's it. Does anyone, just because I'd love to get home for tubby time, does anyone have, I got my little guy. It is, we've got a 2-year-old, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for me from the zoning board of appeals? If not, Debbie can step in and do a better job than me. Great to see you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate your help.
Have a great night. Be well.
Enjoy tubby time.
I will.
So my understanding, Jack, is that what's written in the code, you require it, at least the parking spaces that what's in there now,
Require the
at least or
maximum parts
exceed, yeah.
required, you know, so it says. Where's that? Put it down.
But the
It says
shared,
Shared, as long as you have the equal or exceeds the number of required spaces.
right.
And we do have onerous parking requirements in this town. You can tell when you go around, you see parking spaces are empty.
good insight.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So Karina, I agree with you. It's 257, 259. That
Can you
causes a lot.
identify yourself, please?
Kathy Cook, 11 Greystone Way. So Karina's right about the address, but because of the current way it was written, Chris Lund determined that a new tenant that they wanted for 257 couldn't fit. They couldn't make the parking work. So this is, he ended up working it out. So tenant got in, but he didn't think that even with Capital Group owning both of those, that he could use both lots. So this is what instigated this. So the whole purpose of this is try to make it more business friendly, so we really can use shared parking when it's appropriate. You know, the parking rules also don't reflect COVID. I still have half my employees working 2 days a week in the office, 3 days, so you don't have the parking that you used to need. But yeah, it was all 257. So Karina's right, 259, but Chris Lund concluded that there was an issue even trying to use those two together, even with the same owner. So hopefully this solves that.
Thank you.
So this was to get more parking? Is that what I understand?
Be more flexible so that, you know, when you do have contingent spaces, you can use them both if there's 2 owners, they agree, one of them should agree.
I'll have to look into it. This doesn't,
We'll get more clarity for the next meeting, Jack.
well, maybe it shouldn't be a special permit then either.
Well, the thing is, there has to be some ability to make sure it's going to work between the entities.
I guess. We'll see. If it's better, it's better. Anything might help.
All right, so Jack raised a good question. So does it, and you raised it too, Jesse, does it need to be the special permit? Could it be something like written into the agreement that it's a condition or something like that? Because a special permit just adds more process and no one wants more process. So could it be something simplified as it's a rule or condition within the major site plan?
Exactly, in the order of conditions.
Yes,
Right.
just something for the group to think about.
Yes. So, I'm sorry. So the shared parking that I've seen done in other projects, we always had a place where they banked the parking that would make it all as required, but they didn't build it out. And that's where they get the year to find out if it really works. And if it doesn't, then they have the room to build out the appropriate amount of parking.
That's not in this.
Yeah, what Marnie's asking is, instead of having a separate application for a special permit, why not just have it in the order of conditions as part of the approval?
Yeah, that's how we saw it.
Yeah, I didn't understand your answer.
No,
on
because
that.
if you think about it, you have a coffee shop and then a bank and then a restaurant. Their timing is all different.
Well, Colleen, I think we're talking about process. We're not talking about like logistics or pulling it through. We're literally just saying, in this bylaw, it suggests a special permit. I think we've heard from, people speaking, Jesse's question, special permit, let's be simple. Like, we just complicate things. So can we just take that out and just make it as an order of condition? That's, I think, what we're coming to back with you guys to have a conversation around the bylaw. And would that help achieve things for simplicity?
And I can tell you that when the car condo project came before the board, 241, 245 Turnpike Road, the old stone restaurant there, that's Andrew, and it's being in the process of being demoed there. So when that came before the board, I remember they asked, the board asked, what are you going to do with overflow parking when you have an event there, because it's going to be a club? And so on certain occasions, you'll have way more parking. And they said, well, we would make an agreement with the next parking owner next door.
I think we're
So you're.
we're not asking whether or not it's a good idea. We agree it's a good idea.
Yeah,
We don't agree it's a good idea to make somebody apply for a special permit.
that's why I'm saying in that particular major site plan, there was, I believe, some condition written in there to allow that to
So
happen.
why don't we just do that?
So it would, you could, that's what I'm saying. I was saying there
Okay.
was an example that did, I think that came up then, and I think it was something that was proposed.
I have Leah's got a hand up.
Yes, I didn't come here for this, but I can't help but weigh in on this one. Okay, so I don't understand why there's going to be any, so let's say, so I'm at 132 Turnpike Road. We got 3 buildings there, right? With 3 parking lots. My building is now full and needs more parking. So what if, so can Builder Petrie go to Dave Ferris and say, Dave, can I please lose some of your parking? You got plenty of parking. Why would that come in front of anybody? I mean, the building's already there. There's nothing to be approved besides that. What if they want to do a deal to share the parking?
Kind of what I'm saying too. Like,
Right.
there's no
I mean,
need to have.
I don't know the answer to this, but I'm just saying, I don't know why they come in front of you with, to do anything that you could tack this on too.
I don't think they should.
I think that in our parking code, the building commissioner has the jurisdiction over that. So they would have to get, they would have to prove they have the parking to the building commissioner, because I know he's doing some of that now. And it wouldn't necessarily come before planning because it's not impacting the site. The site's already there.
Just to wrap this up, I'm reading the room. Consensus on the board is we support the concept. We don't support having to have an applicant go through the special permit process. It should just be a straightforward, either using Kathy's example, permit from the building department, or in the order of conditions on an approved site plan, but not as a separate special permit.
We have one
Okay.
raised hand. Lizzie.
Okay.
Go ahead, Leah.
Hi, everybody. I just want to weigh in and can you identify yourself, please? Leah?
Sure, Leah Emerson, Economic Development Coordinator, Town of Southborough. I'm at 17 Common Street for work and 2 Westbrook Circle in Worcester at home at the moment. And I really agree that this really should probably fall under an order of condition on site plan review. I do think that coming in for a separate special permit does seem excessive as a separate process. And as long as the agreement is memorialized between the parties and that is verified, you know, it should just be something that's part of the regular site plan review. So again, just reiterating what Marnie has said, Jesse has said, simpler, the better.
Jack
Thanks.
has us all sold.
Well, yeah, we did have a brief conversation about this because he was concerned about it. But yeah, I just think that adding an additional layer is probably not what it's not matching the intent that was really coming from Chris Lund and from Laura Davis. It was really to kind of loosen up some of the parking restrictions. And just to reiterate what Colleen was saying about banking the parking. And so, yeah, thank you.
Any other hands?
Any others?
No more hands.
I'll make, the-
Anyone else? Okay.
I just wanted to bring up something that maybe would come at town meeting is, what if you have a change in party and that party needs all the parking and they don't want to participate? Or something like that, like the future change in use or.
I mean, that would be a modification.
Then, okay, then that party would have to come in for a minor site plan?
Modification.
A
Well,
modification to site
modification to
plan.
whatever they had
But if you
before.
get that condition.
There's a
Okay.
change of use.
Sorry, I'll move that we continue the public hearing for proposed zoning amendment for shared parking, 174-9 and 174-12 to February 10th, 2025. At 6:30 PM for discussion.
Second.
So the discussion item is, why are we having two public hearings on an agenda at the same time? Wouldn't we have, this is a minor point, but wouldn't we have it at like 6:35 or 6:45 or something like that?
We left them both at the same time because if something happened to one and not the other, we could just start them both. What's been happening during the
Oh.
6 to 6:30 timeframe
Okay,
is we'll start, or it's continued, and now we have to pull things up the agenda, administrative.
what's
things.
wrong with that?
No, there is.
I'm
there is
just
nothing
kidding.
wrong.
Okay,
It doesn't hurt
yeah,
to do that.
go
We
ahead.
can do that way, but it was just to have a start time. Same.
Do we have a motion and a second? Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Yes.
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, major site plan approval. You want to bring us up to date, Karina?
So 250 Turnpike Road is currently before the planning board for major site plan approval. At one of our prior public hearing sessions, the proponent was informed that they needed to provide a application for special permit for lower impact development. Over the last week or so, we've received the application. It was reviewed for completeness and filed with the town clerk for the special permit for lower impact development. Attorney Banan is here to provide you some insight as to why they're in this status and where they actually are now. With the goal being that the major site plan public hearing and the lid public hearing will kind of converge now once the public notification process is done. So we ran this in the newspaper. We'll be running this in the newspaper for opening the public hearing for the lid at February 10th. At which time the two projects now will converge. There'll be one master set of project plans that incorporate the lid and the site plan. The application packet as we have now is going to be provided to the new town consultant, Niche Engineering, who will then give us a work order estimate for continued review of the major site plan and the lid. You have the packets with you tonight. The 3-ring binder is the updated packet. And I'll point out that there is also a set of half-size architectural plans as part of the major site plan approval packet. and a waiver request letter for the major site plan as well. And then the lid has its own waiver requests in the 3-ring binder. So the 3-ring binder is the lid application that's been filed with the town clerk and moving forward. And major site plan is being continued. And I'm sorry, I took all the wind out of your
You did a
sail.
great job.
But I'm trying to remember where we are on this, because there's a lot going on. So, but here we are.
Thank you. Welcome. We just wanted to see where you were because this is the 4th extension without any information. So
Yes.
wanted to hear from you what was going on.
George Bonan, Assistant General Counsel for the applicant FD 250 Turnpike LLC. And I couldn't have said it any better myself. Thank you, Karina. I just wanted to come here and let you know this is most likely the last time we'll be requesting continuance without testimony. We do expect to pick this back up on February 10th at the next planning board hearing, where we will hear the major site plan application and lit application together, merged, and move forward based on that, assuming, well, I shouldn't say assuming, but I don't know, at that time, we will have had peer review complete. I think that we'll try and we can be hopeful, but we can have a substantive discussion. You can ask us any questions or concerns, highlight any concerns you have with the updated plans that we filed with Karina with the lit application. So that's where it stands right now. I just didn't want to continue. I heard that there was some concern about continuously continuing without testimony, but it was just that was being done while we finished the lit application. And that's it.
Mr. Stein.
So on the 10th, we're going to have 2 public hearings on the agenda, one for major site plan approval and one for lower impact development, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood how this was going to appear on the next agenda. No further questions.
Ms. Houlihan?
Right, so I know we're asking continue, but can I ask just a clarifying question?
Absolutely.
So we've raised on a variety of different occasions, the concerns that there's the 250 40B
Mhm.
in place that affected the site plan. And there was a lot of kind of existing conditions that weren't represented on the existing conditions from the prior. So have all of those things been addressed and approached in this? Like, do you feel like what you're submitting has addressed a lot of our prior comments and concerns?
I will say yes. For example, our existing, last time we came in here, we had proposed or asked for a parking waiver in terms of the width size. And you asked us to go back and ask if we really needed it. Because the existing conditions plan showed parking widths between 8.5 and 9 feet. And we were asking for a waiver, but pursuant to our prior decision, they should have all been 9.5. I can confirm that they were striped incorrectly, the newer ones, and they are in fact 8.5 feet. This new plan that we submitted plans to correct that, and every parking spot on the premises on the property will be 9.5 feet wide. So things like that, I know were an issue last time. I've attempted to correct them to the best of my ability. Increasing the limit of work, that was a big issue last time. I think if you've taken a look at the plans, you'll see that I've pretty much encompassed the entire lower level parking lot so that we're not nitpicking. Like, limited work is not an issue at this point. So let's include it all where we think we can, as well as a few spots that were worked on but not previously approved in the 2022 site plan. Those are also included within the limit of work this time. So I hope I've done my best with my engineer, with our engineer, James Tatro, to fix everything and correct everything that was highlighted in previous hearings. And I think I've done that.
Okay, I think I just want to just reinforce, I think one of my really largest concerns was the existing plans never actually represented what was approved,
Mhm.
right? And
Yep.
so there was what was approved, and then you guys made a bunch of changes and then submitted that as existing conditions. And so that's just not how we work, right? Like we want to follow the rules
Correct.
and so there was this big kind of discrepancy between existing conditions, what really was approved and what we thought you built and what you built. And so I think there needs to be that original plan and maybe that's in here. And then what's been done since, because it's worrisome when we approve something and then all this work gets done that's never been approved by the planning board. And so then we see plans that are things like the sign that was never agreed to. And you guys just bought a new sign and put it on the property that violated the sign regulations. So I think I just want to make sure all of that's covered. This is all in here. And then we're going to move forward with kind of a new path forward, trying to make sure that we're all in agreement. It's aligned with the 240, the 40B. You've factored that into your everything.
Yes, how the 40B is going to affect this site plan, there's only really one thing, and we can discuss it if you'd like. I don't know if it's totally appropriate to highlight the access way to the 40B on this plan. It will certainly be highlighted on 40B plans. I just didn't know if it was premature. If the board would like to see something like that, keep in mind, this is a major site plan for the contractor's yard building, and we don't know exactly how the access drive is going to be depicted or shown or illustrated on future plans that are not the 40B plans. They're two separate projects, so.
Explain also when we discussed, you said that if the 40B, depending on how the
Yes.
40B pans out, you would come back for a modification if they
Okay.
needed. to
Yes.
change.
Okay, I'm comfortable with that then. That's fine.
I think Chair Luttrell had pointed out that that the lot lines are shown a little bit different on the 40B plans than they are on the contractor's yard plan. And if we do in fact move forward with a plan, with what we have in front of the zoning board showing the 40B, showing lot lines moved a bit, we will come in and do a minor site plan or do a modification to a site plan so that you will have an opportunity to review and approve it.
Okay. My questions are answered. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Mr. Maria?
I just want to thank you for coming in and spending the time with us to talk through some of the things and some of the things that you've tried to address for us. I think it'll be much easier taking a look at the site plan and the lid together. So just want to say thank you. And I don't have any questions tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank
Nope.
you.
Ms. Brascio?
Close enough. I know what you meant. Again, thank you for coming in and thank you for the clarification. And Martin, I think those were great points. And I think you've gone a long way in us looking at this to move forward in a productive way.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Great. See you on the 10th.
Great.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You were gonna say something. Okay. I'll make the motion that we extend the public hearing for 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, major site plan approval to February 10th, 2025 at 7 PM.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
So, Jesse, that was to continue the public hearing, so we need to also do the extension for action to the February 28th, that's okay.
I'll make the motion that the planning board extend the decision date on 250 Turnpike Road, Contractor's Yard Building, major site plan approval to February 28th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes?
Brascio, yes.
Next item on the agenda is a public hearing. 2 East Main Street, mixed-use building, major site plan approval. 2 East Main Street, mixed-use building, special permit downtown district.
My hands don't work. Okay, for 2 East Main Street, we got a request from the applicant, Peter Bemis, to continue the public hearing without testimony to February 10th, and extending the decision timeframe to February 28th, 2025. Can I say one thing real quick? We did receive Fuss and O'Neill peer review comments, and they were provided to the applicant, and they're working on a revised submittal.
So I'll make a motion that the planning board extend the public hearings for 2 East Main Street, mixed-use building, major site plan approval, and special permit downtown district to February 10th, 2025, and the decision deadline to February 28th, 2025.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval. A public hearing, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, special permit, lower impact development. And public hearing, 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, special permit, major residential development. Karina.
Same with this set of public hearings. The applicant, Bill Putry's engineer, Peter Bemis, requested to continue without testimony to the February 10th, 2025 planning board meeting, and extending the decision deadline to February 28th, 2025. And, again, with no testimony.
So a motion is for the planning board to extend the public hearings for 26 Meadow Lane, Reservoir Meadows, major site plan approval, special permit, low impact development, special permit, major residential development, flexible development to February 10th at 7:15 PM, and the decision deadline to February 28th, 2025.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I meant to say February 10th, 2025 for the public hearings.
As amended?
as amended, second.
Thanks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brashear, yes.
Next item on the agenda is an A&R, 9 Windermere Drive.
Vito, was Verusian gonna come in person? I think he's on. I know, I see him over there. Okay. Okay. Can you
You want to set it up? or-
elevate Verusian? Well, Vito is here for the next.
Oh,
So
sorry.
Vito's the engineer. Verusian Hagopian is Cornerstone's professional land surveyor who prepared the A&R. I'll give you a quick update. And then, we'll let-
Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So.
One second, Verusian. Karina's just going to update us and then
No
we'll
problem.
throw it to you.
No problem. Take your time.
Okay, so we received an application from Mr. James Shea, who's the owner of 9 Windermere Drive, for an A&R plan. The plan was prepared by Verusian Hagopian with Cornerstone. He's a licensed surveyor. I reviewed the plan. They made a few minor revisions. And generally, the goal is there's an existing lot that they want to split into 2. So that's what I have.
Back to you, Verusian.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Farouj Shagopian, Cornerstone Engineering. So 9 Windermere Drive. is an existing single-family dwelling. We have enough room for an additional lot on the right-hand side of the existing house with enough area and frontage to meet zoning. So that is what the client is proposing, a new single-family lot. I can attach the plan if you would like. I do have
Version
it here.
Colleen can launch it.
Perfect.
Got it up in the drop.
Thank you, Colleen. So again, we have an existing lot. We're splitting into lot 1 and lot 2. 2 is the vacant lot on the right. And again, has enough area and frontage for the zone and meets setback requirements with the existing dwelling for the new lot line.
I'd like to point out that originally there was a house on that second, there were 2 lots there originally, and there was a house there. And I believe when the current owner bought 9 Windermere, they removed that house and made it one big lot. And now they're going back again to the 2 lots.
That is correct.
Mr. Stein,
No questions.
Ms. Houlihan,
I have no questions.
Ms. DeMaria,
I have no questions either.
Ms. Brascio,
No questions either.
and I have no questions. Has adequate frontage. That's all we're looking at. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I make a motion that the planning board approve the A&R for 9 Windermere Drive.
Second?
I would- Just a wonky thing. We're endorsing it. We don't really approve it.
Thank you. As amended, please.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes?
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
So Verusian, we have the plan here. The planning board members will sign at the end of the meeting with the endorsement form, and we'll give you a call tomorrow when it's ready to pick up.
I believe the attorney for the client was interested in coming to pick it up, so I'll contact her in the morning. And
Yeah.
it'll either be her or myself will pick up the plan, but thank you.
Yeah, just wait till I let you know it's ready.
Perfect. No
Thanks.
problem. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
The next item on the agenda is 361 Turnpike Road, Valvoline Instant Oil Change, minor site plan. Karina, if you want to bring us up to date.
Do you want me to set up the boards or are you going to use the screen?
I'm going to put it up here, but you're certainly welcome to be your board.
We like the old fashioned way.
So as Peter was setting up, Debbie, did you want to provide a disclosure you had mentioned to me?
Just to mention, I live on Flag Road, but I'm not in the 300-foot butter list. I did call the attorney of the day and just sharing information that Flag Road is a collector road. And so anybody who's impacted, along the road is impacted equally. I have no financial disclosure to declare. And so I plan to serve on this matter.
So you'll be a voting member.
Thank you.
And just a quick update in general, The application was complete on January 14th and filed with the town clerk on the 17th of January. We have an approval deadline for February 16th. But Vito, if we don't meet that, we'll send you an extension request because we are waiting for, actually, we're not waiting. This afternoon, we received the Fuss and O'Neill review. And I forwarded that to you right away.
Okay.
So you have a chance to work on that. And I also forwarded, and this is not a public hearing since it's minor site plan, it's a discussion. So there was no abutter notification, et cetera. Also not put in the newspaper. We also received review comments from conservation, which I forwarded to you. If there are any other comments received, we'll get them to you right away so that you can respond with a revised submittal. And that's all I have.
Welcome.
Well, hello.
Take it away.
Okay, Vito Colonna with Cornerstone Engineering. And we are here for 361 Turnpike Road. So it's right on the corner of Flag and Turnpike Road. It's in the industrial zone, not in any overlays, and it's about a 1.1 acre lot. I think I have the existing. That straight line across the middle, but so that's the existing conditions. So right now it's a vacant lot. There used to be a structure on the house years back, on the lot years back, but that's been removed a while ago. And the only thing that remains is the paved driveway that goes between Flag Road and Turnpike Road. Right now, everything slopes down from Flag towards Turnpike, basically a constant slope all the way down. There are intermittent stream off-site to the rear of the lot. And so there's no wetland resources actually on the site itself. Just a quick flip over. So the proposal itself is for automotive service building. It's a Valvoline instant oil change. You probably all have seen them around. And so essentially looking at putting the building sort of in the central portion of the site with access actually off Flag Road rather than Turnpike. The building would be actually facing towards Flag and have a Flag Road address in the future. We kind of discussed this with building inspector and assessors just to make sure that that was appropriate. And they just felt as long as it's facing in that general direction, that would be the Flag Road address in the future. We have traffic circulation coming in, looping around the building. If you're not familiar with their operations, you essentially enter through the rear of the building. They have garage doors, you enter in, you stay in your car, you sit there and they get the service. Most of the time you stay in it. If there's some service, you do get out, but generally you stay in the car, they do all the service, and then you enter out, exit out the front of the building. So it's really just like a kind of a loop through the site. There's really not too much real need for on-site parking for customers, but we do have to provide it for the staff. And then we also provide enough parking just to comply with zoning. So there's extra parking, we feel, for their use, but it does comply with zoning. There's 12 spaces, 1 handicap spot, and there was 12 required. We have access to site utilities, so we have water, gas, and electric, all available at the site. And then we can propose an on-site septic system for domestic sewage. We tested on site with Board of Health and found favorable results. We had no groundwater to 90 inches or so in the area of the septic system. And we had perk rates of, I think it was 6 to 13 minutes an inch. So fairly favorable. We can fit that septic system, and it's kind of in the rear corner of the site. And as far as stormwater goes, we're proposing a system that collects all the runoff from all paved surfaces and all the roof area and would infiltrate that fully into the ground through a 100-year storm event. So essentially there'd be no runoff leaving the site except from the vegetated buffers of the site. Everything from the interior would get collected, treated, and infiltrated fully. So we're really mitigating that for no discharge towards Turnpike Road. Let's see. As far as sort of our regulatory process goes, It's an automotive service which is allowed by right for less than 50,000 square feet. And with less than 20 parking spaces, that's how we fell into the minor process. We do need conservation just approval for their minor stormwater process, which is essentially gets reviewed during the building permit process. It's a 7-day notification. I talked about it with Melissa. So it's a notification ahead of time, and they inspect the site and make sure your erosion controls are in place, but we don't actually need a stormwater permit or a conservation permit for the project. And then we do also, we just provide a lighting plan and landscaping.
I just want to point out that we did receive your revised lighting plan.
Mhm.
And I provided it to the planning board.
Oh, okay.
So there is an updated plan, but you probably didn't have a chance to look at it.
Yep.
We just got that.
Yep, I'll go over that one then, since we just brought it up. So the revised lighting plan, it's essentially the same plan as you had before. We're just doing wall packs on the building itself. What they did though is they turned down or decreased one of the lights. We were over the 5 lumens per square footage. So one of the lights they decreased to get under that value. But they are just wall packs. They have adjustable. They can go 3,000, 4,000, or 5,000 for the color range. And the actual wattage can be adjusted too if need be, so they can always be decreased in the future. But the way they have it designed, there's 0-foot candles at the perimeter, and it falls under that, the 5 lumens per square foot. I think its plan's actually upside down right now. And then our landscaping plan. It's a mix of native species. Steve Cosmos did the plan. He provided us a letter just verifying that they were a native species. I'm not an expert usually when I look through them, but he gave us that letter saying that they were. So it's really just a mix of red maples, red cedar, white spruce, some oak, dogwood, inkberry. There's a few other smaller perennials in there too. But we tried to just mix those around the site, give it a little buffer. Some of the larger trees right along Route 9 to give it a little bit of height right along the roadway. We've also proposed a sign right out front, right in down this location. And the applicant right now, he's not going for any special permits or anything with the sign. He's just going to comply with the zoning requirements for that. I think the max height is 25 feet and the maximum size is 100 square feet. He did give us just pictures of like a sample. It's not the one they're going to use, but I don't know if you want to just see what a sample sign would look like. I got a couple. I can submit these. It's just a sample sign.
And you don't want to see the comments on this. In the review part, there's some comments.
Okay, I left the office at 3:30, so I didn't get it.
Like that.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. And I think the only one to show was just the sample building elevation. Somewhere. This is just their typical, this is actually the building, but this is kind of that they usually do, where they have a kind of tower on the right side. That's where the office is, the waiting room, and then the bay doors. You can see on the back side, this is the bottom. You drive in the back and you exit out the front of the building. I think that's really all I have. Once we get the peer review, I'll go through that and reply to any of those issues.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stein.
Thank you for coming in. What will be the hours of operation of the business?
I don't know what there's. That's one of the things I was going to ask them. I think they're not open too late. It's a service, so I think that I'd say around 7, but I can't guarantee I can get that to you though.
And
actually, Karina, can you see on the phone? Is there a Michael Quillen on the call at all, on the online at all, in the waiting room or anything? He might be able to answer. If there is one, or a Bob Lattice. Okay, I know Michael Quillen? No, okay, I didn't know if they might have been on, they would have been able to answer that question, that's all.
So that's sort of tying into my next question, which is regarding just some of the logistics of the business.
Mhm.
There's lots of supplies going
Mhm.
into the business and there's waste coming out. So
Mhm.
how does that work in terms of, what vehicles are coming in,
Mhm.
when and with what? How does that work?
Yeah, so they store everything in the basement. They have containment in the basement down there. And then they have it, they come in and have a service remove it for them. But I know I'll get Bob in for the next one. He has intimate knowledge of all these, exactly how they work. But they do have, it's a well-run operation. They have a system for it, but they do store everything in the basement and they have someone come in at a periodic time and take it and remove it from the site. It gets all monitored, everything, since they are a chain, a franchise. So, but he'll be here at the next one, or Michael will be here and they can really get into depth on that if you want.
Just to interject, do you know how many of these he has, Bob Lattice? This isn't his first one.
No, he's done a lot of them. He does them all around. Like Michael, he's out of Florida. So they do these all around the country. Yeah. Yep.
And then the other thing I'm going to be curious about is the impact of traffic. Historically, this part of town has been a hot button. Many, many discussions, many hearings on impact of traffic in that neighborhood.
Mhm.
So that's going to be for sure something we're going to want to get into in the details.
Mhm.
Impact and whether or not Mass DOT needs to be involved for egress,
Mhm.
et cetera.
Yeah, usually for Mass DOT, I don't think we're going to trigger that threshold. Usually they're 1,000 trips a day or more threshold before you get to DOT. They'll be far less than that. So
That'd be
they,
good to know.
yeah, we'll give you the,
Actually, it
I
is.
can give you their estimated traffic numbers. We just did one in Sudbury and their traffic numbers were not that high once we actually broke it down. But I'll get you their estimated values. They have it broken down pretty precisely as to how many per day they estimate the business model brings in. And then most of the traffic would be off of Route 9, off Turnpike Road. You'd be getting a lot in and out right there. I don't think there'd be too many. There will be a few, but it wouldn't be too many that go up the other way on Flag Road. I think most of your traffic is going to be off of Turnpike.
Ms. Houlihan.
So thank you. Thanks for the presentation. The first thing that you need to be aware of is there's a truck exclusion on Flag Road.
Mhm.
So that would exclude your trucks from going in to take out the materials.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how you guys handle that, but that would be a concern.
Okay. Do you know where? Is that through DPW?
It was Mass DOT, our select board. It was a citizens petition from the Flag Road residents
Okay.
that got approved, and then they appealed to Mass DOT and Mass DOT. So you'll see this truck exclusion signs on Route 9
Mhm.
on Flag and Deerfoot, which
Okay.
is farther down.
Okay. We'll look into that.
So I think that's going to be a problem for you guys to be able to actually remove and
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to see how big that exclusion is
Yep.
and what they can bring in and out of there.
I think my colleague Jesse just mentioned the other concerns, which is really the Mass DOT thing would likely, while you don't think it's enough car trips, it's already a very congested exit off of Flag Road because of the Cumbies and the 495 on-ramp. It's a very concerning area that's of high interest. So I think your team should be prepared to at least provide insight to this planning board.
Mhm.
I will say I am not a fan of adding more complexity onto Route 9 that's already exists at that intersection. And that this does worry me, but I also understand we have a parcel of land that's sitting idle that we're not getting benefit from. So there's got to be something. And so that's the question that I'd ask is why cut the curb from Route 9 access and put it on Flag? Why not keep that curb cut at Route 9 and close off the Flag, which is a secondary egress now, and just use ingress and egress off of Route 9?
Yeah, we did look at that and it looked to be a safer turning maneuver
Yeah.
because it already has that turning area, so you can get off of Route 9, have space to slow down and get around that corner. So it is safer to go off Flag Road. And that's the only reason kind of why we did it that way. We did have options where we had the access coming up off Turnpike, but that was chosen as kind of the safer, easier option to mitigate that.
And that abuts the property right to the east of that is Nan's.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's just my biggest concern off the top. The other thing is the illumination. So that's kind of my area of specialty on the planning board. So the wall packs, I couldn't see that they were shielded. So non-shielded wall packs are a violation of our bylaw.
Yep, they're fully
They're
shielded.
fully shielded. Okay, just wanted to make sure. And otherwise, I just need some time to spend with this just to make sure it works. Other wise, I think the additional questions that will be addressed will be helpful.
Okay.
Mr. Murray.
Hi there. Thank you for coming in. I want to hope that I hope that you'll keep that beautiful stone wall that's right now on Turnpike. I don't think it goes around the corner of the Flag. I can't remember, but there's a beautiful stone
Yeah.
wall on Turnpike Road right there. And so anything that goes in there, I was hoping that that gets saved. I just wanted to make sure I understand, because the topography is like, it's a hill there. So will the traffic only be coming in on Flag and only be coming out on Turnpike Road?
It just stays all on Flag. So it's just one driveway entrance.
So you have no entrance on?
Right.
Okay, I've sat over the weekend and I took some time and I looked at some traffic reports and things in that area. And, I think it would be worth it to have a traffic expert. I mean, I think conventional wisdom is that you wouldn't use a scenic road as egress, that you would use your larger roads, and Turnpike Road is a larger road. Flag's a collector, so it's a smaller road. So I think I would, that's one of my concerns. And also the hill that's there. So will, have you thought about that, the topography, and like, will cars be in like a queue or parking, did you say?
No, so essentially where the entrance is, it's kind of at the midpoint of that slope on the hill.
Okay.
So we're gonna balance the cuts and fills. So it'll be a level pad in the end.
Okay.
When you come in off Flag, you loop around the back of the building, and that's where any queuing would happen. And they have enough spaces in the back to fit more than enough of what they anticipate at any time. Right now, we have enough queuing just in the very back of the building for 6 cars, plus the ones that would be inside. And that's already more than enough of what they expect. And then if that ever even got past that, you'd have all the way around the building to queue up. So there'd be no backups onto Flag due to the operation.
Okay. I mean, I think that's my major concern is, that I think that we should be using Route 9 instead of Flag Road. Flag's a scenic road in town and a historic road.
Ms. Brascio.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. It's very nice to meet you. I had some of the same concerns that have already been addressed, from Jesse, the hours of operation, obviously, and the impact and safety of where the current egress is into the property. So look forward to continuing the conversation and hopefully getting this done for you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a couple of lighting comments. I hope I won't step on any toes. They exceed the 3,000 color temperature.
Yeah, those are
required in our
adjustable.
bylaw?
Yep.
But it says 5 on the. on the
Yeah, that's what I
lighting
was just
plan.
saying. We can make that because they're adjustable, so we can make them put them at 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in the lighting plan, it shows the parking spaces. There's no light on any of those, so the employees have to
Mhm.
bring their own flashlights in the dark.
Yeah, we're trying to keep the lighting to a minimum for what they need. The only real lighting is on these couple spaces there.
Yeah,
If we
so-
want more lighting, we can provide it. Usually we try to do the minimum that we can. We can do more lighting if that's something that you want to see.
Well, just for the safety, so those parking spaces in the north show 0 light on them. And there was, so you're only using the wall pack, although there was a different light in the original packet, but that's not being used.
Right, yeah, they were originally thinking about putting pole lights up, and I think that's why that's in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's one light on the southwest that shows that it's not producing any light. On the lighting plan, see, there's nothing, no,
Is that one down?
not
Oh, yeah,
registering at all.
I think the grid just doesn't extend down there for some reason.
But wouldn't that be part of the lighting?
Yeah, I can have them extend the grid down. That one's the weakest of all the lights too. That's just over one of the doors.
Okay. But
But
I
you
would
cut
think,
off the grid at the parking line.
all right. So that's it on lighting. Landscaping. It was disappointing that your landscape architect sent a letter saying that they're all natives, because they're not.
Are they? Okay. I'll have to tell them.
Cultivars are not native by definition. And there are a few hydrangea that's native to China and Korea, which is
That's not
not even
native.
close.
That's not even, I'll tell them.
So it's 60% native, but the rest aren't. And just so trees have to be a 3-inch caliber minimum, and it shows some gallon pots. I don't know what size those are. And the shrubs need to be 36 inches tall at installation. And I don't think the 5-gallon pots are that tall. And they're short on the trees that are required abutting Route 9. There's 1 tree per 20 feet. Plus 3 shrubs. And then on flag, 1 tree per 40 feet, plus 3 shrubs.
Okay.
Which you don't meet. Also, the plant list shows the plant list has a QR, but that's not on the plan, but there's a QP on the plan. I assume it's
Must be the same.
a typo, but that needs to be corrected. And there's and Fuss and O'Neill mentions this, but there's a 10-foot landscape buffer required on rear and side property lines. Also, the perennial and grasses planting table, the numbers don't match what's on the plan.
Okay.
And on the existing plan, there are little circles that are those existing trees
On the
on the
existing plan?
existing.
Yep.
Are any of those going to be saved?
Only the ones that, anything in the limit of work is going to be removed.
Okay,
So it'd just be the one, anything outside the limit.
all right. And you received the letter from Melissa Danza?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
Yes.
just swap out the straw bales.
Yeah.
Hay bales for straw.
Yeah, so I would add I would certainly advocate for those conditions that she requested, being requested by this board. In, the sign does require a special permit,
Okay,
so it would need to be 15 feet tall and 75 square feet to not require a special permit, so right now it does.
okay, they'll edit that then to be the 1575.
And are appointments made or people just show up?
You just show up,
Okay,
yeah.
and they don't think more than 6 people at a time usually show up.
Not usually. And you can, I think you could, in theory, make an appointment, but I think you just show up generally. Because it's, you have the 6 outside, then there's 3 inside too.
Yeah.
So they say that that never happens when they never have that many people at one time.
Okay. That's all I have. Anything else? Mr. Bartolini? You'll need to step on up to the microphone.
Take a seat. There you go.
I just happened to see this by accident, tonight, you know, so
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
What Billy showed me and what you've got are two different things.
Yeah.
If you
But
could,
Billy
in-
showed me his quite a long time ago.
Yep.
if you could introduce yourself.
John
again.
Bodolini Jr., 4 Wyeth Circle. So I only have one really concern, and that is I don't want to block the line of sight, and I don't know if he has, to Nan's. And the trees that you're planting on Route 9, I think may interfere with the line of sight to Nan's coming eastbound on Route 9. So that's a concern I have. I don't know how far this is built up. But and then the other thing is the hours of operation and the lighting. I don't mind the driveway. The driveway where it is fine. I don't think that there's a big deal with trucks going down Flag Road. I think they're just gonna go in and out. So that's fine. But really, that's the only thing. I don't know when the lights shut on or off. They're not on all night.
No, they might have one
Your
secure
hours of
light.
operation, what do you shut them off like?
Yeah.
9 or 10 or something?
Yeah, I'll find, we'll get all that for next one, when the lighting's go off.
So that's really all I have, other than I'd like to see it a little better with you, Vito, if that's okay.
Yeah,
So you said the concern is going east on Route 9?
Coming eastbound on Route 9,
Yeah,
looking across, you pick up Nan's, all right? And it's gonna be difficult if you're gonna plant trees there and things that are gonna block the vision. So you're in a retail area, you're in a, I know you wanna make it look pretty, but they wanna sell chicken.
we do have a bylaw that
I know, you
wants
can waive
trees
it.
on Route
You
9.
can waive it, or you don't have to go strict by it.
I don't know. So you don't want any trees on Route 9? Is
I
that
just
what you're
don't
saying?
want to be able to be blocked. I don't want the vision, the line of sight.
yeah, like if you're coming down, trying to see across to see.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think they'll probably keep it to the minimum required, whatever's.
Would there be a way to just show an exhibit of a view, like if you do Bing Maps or something, that you could give it like a little illustration of what it would look like
Yeah.
looking down the way? Because it may not be a problem if it, you know, we're assuming it might be, but it may not be too.
When it grows.
Yeah, depending, and then you could maybe get an estimate of a full-grown tree there at some point,
Well,
just for
here's
clarity.
what bothers me here. You're holding him to a standard and you've held me to a standard. And then 357 Turnpike Road does whatever they want. They really do. They do whatever they want. You know, they got a fence right out on Route 9. They've got things, they just do whatever they want. So you go 2 buildings and then you've got Nan's, which does okay. You know, we've got our stone wall, we've got our grass. You got this guy, you want to have him have the grass and the stone wall and the trees. So it's not.
That's the marble.
355, I'm sorry.
Just the fence shop and the marble.
It's fence, marble.
It's
everything.
But they haven't been here.
No.
Well, how can we hold them to a
Building
standard? It would be building inspector if they're not complying with something. Have you raised
Doesn't-
that?
I'm not
Have
here
you
to complain
raised
about
that
it.
issue?
I'm just saying.
Well,
you're making him beautify America and the cost of maybe my line of sight when the other two guys aren't. So it doesn't matter. I just,
we just try and be consistent, so.
Mr. Bartolini, please rest assured, any applicant that comes before us is treated the same. So
oh, I know that.
There's-
I know that. I know that.
to Mimi's point, if we don't get a submission, we don't, not out, policing the town. It's what comes in front of us in the application pipeline.
I'm just saying that the grass area would be fine and that would be an improvement over.
Duly noted.
Yes, I had one question, just so when we trying to move forward, trying to figure out where we're coming with the traffic. If it's determined that the safest spot is off of Flag, would the board be open to having some kind of exclusions where, trucks can't turn right, out of the driveway or something like that? To limit any truck traffic going north? If it's truly the safer way to get off Route 9 and get onto the driveway that way, rather than, to save that traffic, but to make a hazard or something less safe, not a hazard, but something maybe not as ideal for safety. Is there some way that could work where you come in up Flag, you only have a, left turn only, no right-hand turns for trucks, something like that?
We've certainly done that before,
Mhm.
so I think it's by member. My answer to that is yes, I would be supportive of that accommodation. Bear in mind,
Mhm.
if we get word from people on Flag Road that trucks are zipping up north,
Mhm.
then that's gonna come back before us and
Mhm.
we're, gonna change, that could be problematic for the
Yep.
proponent in the future.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, because if someone, a truck, we're trying to make, say, cut through up that way, and even if they left on Turnpike, they'd still just turn up that way. It isn't gonna, just by having the driveway off of Turnpike isn't gonna stop someone who wants to go up Flag, because we're gonna get out right there. So these guys are really on top of getting on their drivers and anything like that, operations to stay good with the town. So if there was a problem, I think they'd be very responsive if someone complained or anything, the building inspector could enforce it. I just think we'll have the traffic, maybe we'll get in touch with the traffic engineer to take a look at it. But we felt that was kind of the safer traffic maneuver. I'm not trying to get traffic volumes going up on Flag Road. We're just trying to get them safely off Route 9 and into the site. That's all. Sure.
You're
Oh.
mostly changing oil for residential, right?
Mhm.
For just,
Yeah, it's generally.
it's not commercial.
No.
So you're
You
not
could
gonna have
bring,
commercial trucks coming in there and things like that. I mean, the biggest you might have is a F-350
Right.
pickup truck or a Suburban or.
yeah, it's
something
more
that
the,
maybe some of you guys are driving,
I think it's more the delivery.
right? So how many
Trucks.
deliveries, I mean, what kind of deliveries? You're not,
It's not often.
it's
It's,
an oil truck, right?
right.
Can I just
Or
make a
of the
statement? I
trucks.
think my worry is that there is a truck exclusion on the
Right.
road.
That's what we have.
I don't know if planning board can override that. I
Right.
think that's a town council question. Personally, I don't know if we can override that.
Right, yeah, we have to look into that. and see
Yeah,
how-
I don't have
How
that
big it
answer.
excludes or what they.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's very clearly marked on that corner, like no truck is allowed to even turn on
Mhm.
Flag Road.
Anything else? Anybody on Zoom?
We have 9 attendees and no hands raised.
Okay. Any other comments, questions?
Vito, I might have a copy of that truck exclusion. I'd have to look. I remember
Oh, that'd be
seeing
great.
it. So let me look, but you should find out where you can get the official copy.
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
look.
that'd be great if you had it, but I'll take a look too.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Wait, I was just
Forward
gonna
to
add one
seeing you
I
again.
don't know if it's a heavy, it's just a truck exclusion. It's not like a Mass DOT heavy truck exclusion. Like, I think there's a distinction.
Mhm.
So I think that just needs to be investigated.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's not like a bridge or exclusion where they do a weight class. So I'm hoping it has a description of how big the vehicle can be or something like that. Hopefully it's not super vague because it could be though, but we'll have to find out. Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peter. Thanks, Jack, for your input.
The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 132 Turnpike Road, sign application, planning board report to the zoning board of appeals. You could update us, Karina?
Thanks for coming, Shannon.
Thank you.
So Shannon represents Capital Group Properties. You may recall, Dan Ruiz used to do Shannon's role, Shannon Boyce. So
Hello.
Shannon came into my office a couple times to sit with me and review the application, make sure she had everything right and explained everything, and has been super diligent and super responsive. So I really appreciate that. It's been really helpful for me so I can convey to the planning board. So this is going to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a public hearing in February. I believe it's February 12th.
Yes.
And planning board needs to provide a report to the ZBA in our standard format. We have a draft already, and there are 5 criterias that you'll vote on. This application is for a wall sign.
Yes.
On 132 Turnpike Road, and it meets the size, the square footage, but it's above the
20 feet.
maximum height of 20 feet, and that's measured to the top of the sign. And it's an infusion sign.
Yes.
Right? I think Kathy,
Infusion.
that's your business, right? The infusion? It is, right. So in addition, there are several other signs that are wall signs on the building that have building permits and were installed previously, years ago at some point. I don't know exactly when, but I believe it's the zoning board's intent that during that
Yes.
public hearing, the goal would be to get those into compliance with the special permit covering all the signs there. But the one that's new
Yes.
is this infusion sign.
Mhm.
And so we did receive the application, which is basically a copy of the ZBA's application.
Yes.
And that's pretty much it. I do have the different criteria when you get to that point of what you'll be opining on and recommending to the ZBA. And the ZBA may or may not consider those recommendations of the planning board. And if they don't, they just write it into their decision, but hopefully
Okay.
it's not too much.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to add to?
Sure. Shall I introduce myself anyway? I know Karina
Sure.
did, but okay, so it's Shannon Boyce. I'm the real estate permitting manager for Capital Group Properties as managing agent for 132 Turnpike Road. And we're just requesting a favorable report. Doing a little bit of housekeeping, as Karina explained, we have some permitted non-conforming signs. And we do meet all the other criteria for these wall signs. So they're not above the 75 square feet. There's only one per business on the building. It's just that somehow they were permitted, but we did not have a special permit to allow for them to be over 20 feet. And we are requesting that we could bring them up to 44 feet, which would be like the top ledge, the very top ledge of the building, not to exceed the top ledge. But we just want to have that little extra room in case down the road we have another tenant that maybe has like a tall sign, I don't know, something like that. So that's our request, is to be above the 20 feet, not to exceed 44 feet if possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Stein.
The only question I have is about the illumination.
Mhm.
How does that work? What is the,
So I have,
the lighting aspect?
yeah, I did
I'm gonna
include,
not ask this right, but what are the lumens? Is that the measurement of how bright it is, Marnie?
yeah,
So
you're the
that-
light gal.
Like,
So,
when is it gonna be lit and how bright is it gonna be?
yeah, so it says that it's an internal LED illumination. So my understanding is it's not like the letters, it's behind it that's illuminated. So it'll have a nice glow. And I don't believe it's going to be illuminated after hours. I can ask and get more clarification, but my understanding is that after business hours closes, lights go down.
Okay, so I would probably be putting that in the comment
Okay.
personally. You know, if the board gives a favorable report, it would be with that as like a quasi condition.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what was that condition, just to be clear?
That it be backlit, so to speak. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it right, but
Yeah,
you
it's
said it.
internal LED illumination with remote power supplies is what
And
they have for that.
not after what?
Which I believe is what I saw in the zoning bylaws, was not to have it light up after work hours. It was my understanding. So we want to comply.
So in Viewpoint, your online application certified
Yes.
that the sign will only be illuminated from 6:01 AM to 9:59 PM.
That sounds, yeah, about right. If that complies with the bylaw,
So
we
from
want to
10
comply with the
Yeah,
bylaw.
10 to 6, it's
10 to 6 is the usual,
10 PM
to 6 a.m.
6, yeah,
Okay. Perfect.
is not, no, it's not allowed to
Yes.
be on that.
Perfect.
Ms. Houlihan.
Part of your role is to go through
Yes.
our language and make sure.
Mhm.
Marnie, you want to try?
How can I forget? I'm sorry. And I'm just curious, so our current bylaws are 15 feet, right?
20 for the wall sign, fronting Route 9.
Oh,
So,
sorry,
yeah.
20. And so, help me out, where are these?
So 174-11D.
No, I
Oh,
mean,
this, I
what
thought
are
you
your
meant that.
signs?
So they're like on, and I did include
I saw
pictures,
the
but they're on,
pictures.
yeah, on the building. They look rather attractive, I think. I do have some pictures included in here that
I
I
think
can
it's
show you
just
of
more of the
building.
height, like what were they? And I feel like I looked at all of this and then I just.
So I don't know if I should.
Colleen's
you want me
gonna
bring
try
this
and put it up on the
Okay,
screen
perfect. Thank
for the
you.
fusion sign, so it's. clear.
Yes. So the fusion sign, that one would measure a distance of about 42 feet from the ground to the very top of the sign. So that will be our highest sign. The other signs that are there are two on the second level that are lower than that, but still above 20 feet, obviously. And then there's one directly across from where the fusion sign is that's placed at the same exact level as what the fusion sign would be placed at. So right now, if you were to consider that sign, no sign is higher than 42 feet. But we want to give ourselves that little extra wiggle room just in case.
So, and just forgive me here, but how is the sign 42 feet when the bylaw is 20? Like, I know you're coming in for special permit, but how
Yeah.
did, like, I don't understand what
I don't either.
happened.
So
Okay.
Viewpoint submitted the building permits and every single one of them was approved. And our very last one for Fusion, Chris Lund responded and said, hey, where's your special permit? So I'm here to do some housekeeping because
Right.
somehow that step was missed.
So the sign's been generated, money's been spent,
Yeah,
and now
all
it's
these-
trying to accommodate. for-
Yeah, we're just, the signs that are already on the building too, if you consider those that are non-compliant because there is no special permit, we're trying to do some housekeeping to basically, well, get them to comply at this point because every one of them was permitted, but it just did not follow the appropriate steps somehow.
Yeah, and not to get on my pedestal, but this is the problem. We have things like this where we approve certain things and developers or business owners do whatever they please. And this is something we have to think about is how do we control that in town? And we do our best on planning board to put in rules and regulations for people to comply with, and they choose not to. And I think I just don't want to be seen as the board that tries to influence the rules and be penalized for that. So,
Well, I would like to say that I don't believe this was an issue where the developer was trying to sidestep anything, because they did apply for permits and they did follow, they didn't follow the proper steps, unfortunately,
right.
but they did apply for the permits. It's just, for some reason, it was missed until just now.
I think it was the previous building commissioner. who
Very
did
friendly
not
building
require-
commissioner.
Yeah, who did not require a special permit, although our code does.
So I just think it is something, but like, I just think this is an example of what happens. And I just want to say, like, broadly with these things, this is what planning board does. So that's me getting on my pedestal. Okay, so the sign's been made. I mean, I do think it looks great on the building. Like, I think they all look appropriate
Very
for the building
attractive.
size. And then I think it's also maybe a question for us is, if things are on Route 9, visibility wise, is 20 feet even big enough? And so I think it raises a good question, all the arguments that were raised. So
And this particular building is set quite.
it's set back. Yeah, I agree. So I think my only big worries would have just been the hours of lighting, and I think I'm good. So thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Maria.
Hi there. Some
Hello.
questions. I think it looks really nice also.
Yeah.
So my question is, I'm looking at two different photos. I'm just looking online. So currently, do you have 2 signs right now?
There are currently 3 signs.
You've got.
So we have the block sign,
Mhm,
we have Virtusa, I believe is what it's called.
Right?
And we have Code Red, which I believe replaced Old Colony.
Okay.
It's tough to see, but yeah. Yes. Code Red, I believe, is where the Old Colony sign was, where you see, yeah, it's replaced there. And that's one of the more recent signs that were permitted, but yeah.
So, so just to say, I like it.
Mm.
But which ones are out of compliance?
Every one of, well, everyone from the second floor on up. So there's 4 signs there total, all 4 of them are out of compliance because they're all over 20 feet high. They're all within the square footage, every single one of them.
Yeah.
And it's only 1 sign per building, so that per office, excuse me, so that's good.
Wait,
But
stop it. Isn't there 4 on
yes,
buildings?
4 on 132 is, so we have the Virtusa one, which is up there.
Mhm.
We have the Colony Group one. Oh, I thought Code Red replaced Colony Group, my mistake. So we actually have 4 current ones. Code Red is up there on the top as well. And then Block, and every one of them is above 20 feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
Can I come up too?
yeah, okay.
So Colony's gone because they've been bought. They're probably going to have a new sign, but
Oh,
they've been bought.
yes.
Sign was gone.
Yeah.
Code Red is where
You have to introduce yourself. for
Kathy
our-
Cook, 11 Greystone Way.
Okay, so so back to my question was, how many signs? So there's currently 3 and you're going for the 4th.
Yeah, and what I'm hoping for is with this special permit to basically cover the building, because when I spoke with Chris Lund, what he explained was, once we get that, we would just have to go to building as we had been doing, and it would be good to go. So even though Colony Group may not be there anymore, whoever the next tenant is, that's where we're going to want to place their wall sign. Yeah,
And do we have a limit on the number of signs per building?
1 per business.
Per
in that
business.
district.
1 per business?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I do think that there should be some provision for the fact that the building is set back. I think
Yes.
it's sharp looking. I think it'll be
Yeah.
noticeable without being giant.
Mhm.
And I think it's really nicely designed.
Yeah, I think so too.
Those are my comments.
Can I make a comment to Marnie's comment? I don't disagree with you. So this is what happened. Everybody was getting their sign on except for me. I've been in the building for 20 years. So I spoke to my landlord and said, I don't understand. He said, we can put your sign up. So they went ahead and did the work to get it done. And then Chris was hired and he pointed out that a special permit's needed. So I do agree that I get, and I said, why me? Why am I not understanding this? Why am I being picked on here? he said, you're not. It says, I don't, and he said, I don't know how the other ones got up there. So that's the facts. And it probably was the previous building commissioner that was lax. It looked like you were looking at me. I thought, I don't have anything to do with this. I don't have my glasses on, so I couldn't tell if you look at her or me. So yeah, I think that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Ms. Brascio?
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. So Marnie, I agree with your frustration, but I think the signs are fine. I have no issues with the signs. I find it frustrating that here we are down the road and kind of as Kathy just said, she's kind of being
Yes.
penalized as well as the owner of the building
Yeah.
on something that you tried to do things right and you went for a permit and should have been told if you needed something extra.
Mhm.
So again, I'm supportive of this. Thank you for coming
Thank
in,
you.
but I think with Chris, these things will not happen going forward.
Yeah, no.
So I take some great comfort in that. So
Yes.
thank you.
He's very meticulous. Yes.
So what's the height of the top of the building?
The very top, if you go right to the edge line, is 44. That's why I requested to 44, no higher than that.
Okay.
So I think anything hanging above it would probably look rather unattractive.
Well, not,
Yeah.
and not allowed in
Okay,
our
very
code.
good.
So the height can exceed the top of the building in the
Beautiful.
business highway district.
Yeah. And I don't,
Top of
I
the
just want to
wall.
make sure that we're covered. So if we ever do get a design that's a bit taller than wide, then we don't have to come back and bother you, and that'd be wonderful.
That would be,
Yeah,
that's fine. That's within the code.
beautiful.
I have no questions. So I think that you're requesting that we cover all the signs.
Yes.
Send a report on all of them, so they can
Yeah,
just
so
do
that
one.
they're all covered and it's on record and all the housekeeping is done. That'd be wonderful.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess in the past, it's a little more complicated. So we have 5 criteria here, and it says that its regularly scheduled meeting on January 27th, the planning board reviewed and voted on each of the 5 criteria below in accordance with 174-11E2 of the Code of Southborough regarding the reference petition for approval of a proposed non-conforming wall sign that exceeds the height limit of 20 feet to the top of the sign in the business highway zoning district. The planning board reports the following. So I should amend that to say, and the existing signs, and I'll just enumerate them.
Thank you.
Out there, and I'll edit this.
Yeah.
So do you want me to read the first criteria and the vote, and we'll just take it, and it's based, you want to lump them all together? Since they're relatively the same, or do you want to?
signs?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we can.
you
lump
vote
them.
on, because they're all pretty much the same
Yeah.
style. So the first criteria is the sign scale is in a reasonable relation to development scale, viewer distance and travel speed, and sign sizes on nearby structures. Yes, no, or not applicable.
Yes, for me.
Yes.
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 Number 2, the sign size, shape, and placement serve to define or enhance architectural elements of the building, such as columns, sill lines, cornices, and roof edges, and do not unreasonably interrupt, obscure, or hide them.
Yes.
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 Okay, number 3, the sign design is in harmony with other signage on the same or adjacent structures and provides reasonable continuity in mounting location and height, proportions, and materials.
Yes.
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 Number 4, the sign materials, colors, lettering, style, illumination, and form are reasonably compatible with building design, neighborhood, and context and use.
Yes.
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 Okay, the last one, number 5, the sign, size, location, design, and illumination are not judged to present a safety hazard to vehicular or pedestrian traffic.
Do you want to just note not to be illuminated between 10 PM and 6 AM?
Well, I was going to say yes and then add that in the comment.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
And any notes and comments? So number 1 would be not to be illuminated between the hours of 10 PM and 6 AM per
And-
code.
And restate I keep forgetting how to say it. The lighting is behind
Yes, it was internal LED illumination.
that.
Internal LED illumination as proposed. Lighting shall be, sign lighting, on the new fusion sign.
All of
I guess on it, yeah, all.
On all, okay.
Lumping them all together.
Okay, so
Mhm.
on all sign, lighting, internal LED illuminated as proposed, or just internally LED illuminated.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Any other comments?
So we'll redraft this
Okay,
and send you a copy.
thank
And
you.
we file this with the town clerk and we'll send it to the ZBA so, before their hearing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting
you.
Thanks for waiting so long.
That was interesting. So- You guys, have a good night.
You're welcome every other Monday. The next item on the agenda is a discussion item, proposed zoning amendments for industrial park district.
So if you recall, just write this down, planning board voted. Yes. That was a vote, right? That was, we voted on, you voted on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if you recall, yeah.
And I'm sorry, just going back to the previous agenda item, you're asking if there was a vote. Now, there were no motions. That was by consensus. So,
By consensus.
right.
Okay,
I
so
just
no
want to be
formal-
clear.
I'm glad.
There were
because
no
I need-
motions, no seconds on any of those.
Okay, no motion. It was just agreed upon
Right.
that we do.
We do that
Yeah.
sometimes, and that's okay.
So planning board consensus. That's helpful, Jesse. Thank you. Okay, if you recall, initially, the industrial park had some outdated uses, and we were asked to consider additional uses to broaden the ability for business to come into that district. So in continuing with the building commissioner's zoning amendment working group, we met with me and Mimi and Leah Emerson EDC and Chris Lund, building commissioner, Lara Davis, ZBA admin, and Al Hamilton from the select board. And the goal, and Marguerite Landry from the select board. And we agreed that initially we would approach this with just adding some uses to start, keeping it simple, to start opening it up. So we worked on that with the zoning amendment group. And there was some input from Al Hamilton, who, wanted to consider larger buildings at this point beyond, up to the 150,000 square foot range. 200,000 square foot range that may be considered with a special permit in the industrial park. Also considering a possible, like a setback for certain areas and an overlay. And it seemed kind of complex. It's a good idea, but I think it seemed a little complex for this first round of changes. So based on culmination of the feedback during those zoning amendments, Mimi drafted up a bylaw language to adjust that 174-8.6, I think it is. And Leah also gave a lot of input and helped like show corresponding how Marnie's uses, because Marnie had come up with a list of uses that were more up to date and put them in there. So to cut it short, because I'll go on and on, we have a draft bylaw language that includes uses, and that was included in the packet. And there was a few questions that still need to be ironed out. But the goal is to start with something along this line of additional uses and then get it into the select board so that they can take a look at it and refer it back to the planning board so we could possibly have a public hearing in time for the annual town meeting in April. So Leah provided, in conjunction with the draft bylaw language you have there, kind of a synopsis of showing our standard use name is office, bank, office building, and she kind of indicated Marnie's uses that she saw from different communities that might fall under that, and the building commissioner would consider possibly those falling under that. So if someone approached us with one of those types of use, he would maybe consider it under that. We haven't talked to Chris Lund about this particular arrangement yet. So we have questions on the draft. Pass it back to you.
Yeah, so just to little further discussion on the zoning meetings. So Mr. Hamilton had suggested that buildings up to 200,000 square feet be allowed by right for several different uses with a 500-foot setback from residential. And he had come back and said that he looked at all the industrial park zones and it would only be applicable by the Cosland Park. So we were looking at that, but then that turned out to not be true. It would also be applicable at Park Central, which that would not be a good thing. And over at St. Martin. So it got more complicated. So at the last meeting, we discussed it and decided to just go with the uses, although Al wasn't there, but we decided to just stick with our original intent and add the additional uses. And as Karina said, Leah had kind of taken all of Marnie's and tried to put them in like fewer categories. So there's still some questions that I had from that. Like number 8, it was suggested by Mr. Hamilton to add light manufacturing into that use by right up to 50,000 square feet. Although we already have it under special permit under C13. So I didn't know what the feeling of the board was on that one. A couple uses, accessory apartment and conversion of a 1-family into a 2-family. I didn't know what those were really doing. And from what I can tell, there's only one house in all of the industrial park districts that this would even apply to. In multifamily housing for the elderly, if we're looking for a business zone, I don't know if we want to promote housing. Oh, and then I added a data processing use because that seems to be a hot button. So those are the things that I have. Mr. Stein.
Well, this is a noble pursuit, and I really admire and thank the work that went into this. I am concerned about adding another public hearing to what is already a full slate of public hearings as it is over the next 60 days. So that's my pushback on this is great, but unfortunately, I don't see it fitting into the agendas, given that we have 2 East Main Street, 26 Meadow Lane, 250 Turnpike Road, plus another application, plus 2 proposed zoning amendments that are already underway. Thank you.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thanks, Jesse. My worry is we're trying to address this because we have business owners in town that want to move businesses, and our current permitted uses don't allow them. So it's actually we're not getting income because we can't update our laws. So the constraint that you suggest is significant. I don't know how we mitigate that. I would still vote for keeping this draft bylaw language in because I think we'd have a lot of town people that would vote for upgrading this language so that we could actually have a couple of people submit applications to take some space. So that's my vote on that perspective. Generally, I read through it. I think it's fine. The inclusion of manufacturing in number 8 actually makes sense, just being from the industry. There will be scale up and manufacturing required you would do it in a 50,000. That's different than the manufacturing you describe in section 13. So I think if you describe manufacturing as scientific research, manufacturing and development, you wouldn't have to actually detail instruction and other activities and things like that. I think you could very much narrow that, but that's my perspective. I didn't understand with a direct access to an arterial street. What does that mean? Number 8 on scientific research. Because it's not even, arterial isn't even a word we use. So we use like collectors, you know what I mean? It's called. Okay, so basically it has to be on Route 9. And our IP we have several IP, right? We have St. Martin, which is not Route 9. Like, I think I would strike that. I don't know why you would limit scientific R&D because it's pretty contained. I don't think you need an arterial street. But again, I'm in the industry. I don't understand why that's there. And then at the Y and IP, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of like the residential stuff that doesn't need to be, like, we have an industrial park for an industrial park purposes. So that's my thought there. And then finally on the business uses, like, I think that, I don't know if all we do is make it like broad, subject to the building inspector's interpretation, but provide the detail behind it. So simplify the language up front, but give these definitions as things that fall within that category. You know what I mean? So it simplifies the language because, in my perspective, Mimi, you wrote in one data processing and record storage. I would think of that as an office, bank, or office building. It's a use versus like it's what you do in the office, but it's an office that's going to have people that do stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I guess I'm trying to simplify it to the basic common denominator language. That's how I would think about it, but I haven't really spent a lot of time on this. I can't thank the team enough for taking the time to go through it and really trying to take a first stab at it. I'm happy to go through and just say, is there a way to consider consolidating it even more, just to again, keep it simple. That's my thoughts.
Mr. Merritt.
Yeah, I just have a couple questions. I think on the light manufacturing, is Mr. Hamilton's ideas by right, which I think is in section 8. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't support that. I mean, we know that so many of our residences are very close to industrial areas. And I think that, every time we've had light manufacturing come before us, there's always something having to do with, where do you put the snow? What's the circulation? What does the fire department say? I think those are a little bit more complicated, and I think they deserve a special permit. But I do think that we should try to do something for annual town meeting, because I do think that, this is antiquated and the list could be really updated. I kind of worry a little bit what you're saying, Marnie. Like, for example, I think we've got veterinarian and some animal use, but we don't specify grooming. So do we make a broader bucket and say, like animal use and supplies, or I don't know, whatever that might be. And then, like you say, maybe have a list behind it so that the building inspector would know what that means. Because right now, I think I did see a huge list of animal uses coming from that AI search that you did, but it wouldn't meet, pet grooming isn't actually on this list, and that could be a great business. So I think it needs a little bit more work, but I think, we're getting there. But maybe broad is better with the details behind it, in like, what would we have to do? A rules and regs maybe, or just a something, I mean, what Leah came up with was fantastic also. Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Ms. Brascio.
Thank you. So I agree that this needs to get done. My fear is we're at the end of January. This isn't even a final draft yet. How do we? I think, Marnie, I think you're right. I think the public is going to be very supportive to getting something done. But there are going to be those people that are going to want to add potentially additional uses. I just worry that we're hurrying to get it done because of the urgency of needing to get it done, because this has gone on for so long. I don't know what the answer is. Mimi, when do you think we're going to have like a final draft? I mean, so say you guys in the next 2 weeks got a final draft. How long is it going to take to advertise, to start the public hearings on this, with the warrant closing, Kathy, what, March 15th? Is that about right?
About right.
Okay.
Meeting's April
So
7th.
we don't have a lot of time, you know? What is the requirement for public hearings? Does it only require two?
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm just trying to think.
As long as we keep the public hearings going as.
Right, but I'm saying if you don't start the public hearings till the end of February, potentially, I don't know if you can get it done by the 10th. And then, so you start the public hearings at the end of February, that gives you basically March 15th to get the draft in the warrant. So that would potentially give you 2, maybe 3 tops. Is that enough? Maybe it is. I don't know. But I'm just trying to think of from a process standpoint. If this was done tonight and we were voting to move forward tonight, I wouldn't have the concern. But there's still so many unanswered questions on this, and you guys have to tell us or tell me, how long do you think it's going to take to get something final? When are you guys meeting again?
Well, first point I can say, and maybe Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, but at the department head meeting today, I think we were informed that there's going to be a special town meeting in May. So there may be opportunity there. I don't know how you want to open the warrant for that, so that might not be appropriate. But there's also going to be a fall town meeting potentially. So food for thought. Second thing is it takes 3.5 weeks to advertise.
Okay. Again, I want to get it done. I do, sooner
So
rather
how,
than later.
so
I don't know
how, like, we don't need, the zoning group doesn't need to meet. We can hash this out right now. Like, how far away are we?
I think it's become a little bit more complicated because some of the definitions are lengthy. That's a little bit my concern, that there might be some dickering over words, or what does that actually mean? I think it went from a simple, too simple, old antiquated list, and some great uses, I think sorting a few things out, but I'd have to give it some thought myself, because I think some of the things that you guys came up with are not in the list. They might be considered excluded unless we write some more stuff in.
Can I speak to the timing? I think it may help.
Sure.
So this is what we know so far. We
You
know
have
we
to
hope-
introduce yourself, though.
Okay, Kathy Cook, 11 Greystone Way, but I am speaking as a member of the select board this time. So we know that the annual town meeting is April 7th. Right now, the warrant looks pretty clean. There's not a lot. There's no lightning rod issue on the warrant as far as I know. It could change, but right now there's not. So there's nothing that should keep us from wanting to add this on there. However, given what I saw that is on your agenda for tonight, everything being postponed, you'd want to do this right. It is important, but we do. So we know we're going to have a special town meeting on May 10th, and we hope the only thing on that is the Neary building project. We're hoping nothing else gets added to it. We can't stop citizens petitions, but we're hoping they come on the April 7th one and not May 10th. We think we're going to have a special town meeting in the fall, like we have had with other non-budget issues. If the Neary building project fails on either May 10th or the ballot on May 13th, then we've got 180 days from April 30th to do that again. And my guess is we probably will. This project's very important. So we could have 2 fall special town meetings. But I do think that if you don't think you're going to be ready, you should just assume there will be a fall town meeting you could put this on. And I do think it will be well received if we do it right. Keeping it simple will help because, zoning articles are hard to digest at town meeting. People come and it's hard to digest it all. There's a lot of support for this, but I'd say do it right. We don't want to get there and somebody raises something that we get hung up on as far as a use, whatever. So I think you're going to be fine either way, either at the annual or the fall. And I think you should decide where you've got the time to do it right, and do it that way. This is my suggestion.
Thank you.
So Mimi, the only thing I would suggest is if the board feels strongly enough, knowing again that there's a lot of town meetings coming up, but if the board feels strongly enough that some project or some business may hinge on getting this done for annual, my suggestion would be, and I hate to do this because our agendas are packed, maybe just a special meeting if the board feels strongly enough about this. In the next week or so to at least advance this along to have a draft, a final
So
draft.
the problem with that though, Lisa, is we would have to have public hearings and continue the public hearing at each subsequent meeting. So I'm not in support of that, given where we are with the department right now. Sorry.
We consider fewer uses added right now, maybe add only 2 or 3 or a handful instead of all of them, like whittle it down to, let's just try these 5 new ones or 3. That's enough, an idea. I don't know, just food for thought, just throwing different avenues out there.
Yeah, I guess I come back to, if we're gonna do it, let's just do it once and do it right. I agree, like, given the time frame, the April 7th and the 3.5 weeks notice for public hearing, we don't really have a lot of time. I think knowing that there's kind of some incoming meetings will help. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We have a lot of projects, like big projects on our plate. So I've come full circles. I'm feeling we might not be able to have the room to digest this.
Can I bring Leah over? Hi, Leah.
Hi, everybody. I'm not sure how my audio is working. So I just wanted to weigh in on what Marnie had mentioned a while back. And one of the things that I did, because I think Mimi mentioned it, but sort of looking at the industrial zoning district alongside industrial park to see what the 2 zoning districts have in common versus what's distinct with each district and their uses. And so I put them in a side-by-side table. And the one that Marnie brought up about the scientific research and development, including manufacturing, instruction, and other activities, clearly incidental there too, at the maximum density of 3 employees per acre of lot, and with a direct access to an arterial street as defined by the town of the Southborough Planning Board. That is actually existing. That's in your bylaw right now. And it's in both districts. And so what I was proposing is that you would strike the density of 3 employees per acre lot in industrial park. And if the arterial street doesn't make sense, of course, that can be struck as well. My feeling was the less changes that you make to the bylaw language, the better, at least initially. Work with what you've got and keep it as simple as possible, as few changes as possible. And you can kind of whittle away at it from there. And I would also echo what Karina had just said, that if you want to focus this more and just focus on particular uses that would be the most advantageous right now, things that we've heard from constituents, adding, recreation, athletic, and fitness type facilities, that's okay too. But I also kind of hear what Marnie's saying, that you want to do this right. And I understand that we're up against the clock. I don't know, Karina, if you feel that we can get another meeting in and finalize some language. I understand that you all have very full agendas in the next couple of months. But I feel that this is really, really important. And I do agree that people are behind this. I think it's just a matter of getting it parsed out. And if we can get the support at town meeting. But yeah, there was a side-by-side comparison, and some of this stuff is just as the bylaw is currently written, with a couple of added uses into the industrial park district that post-pandemic people just really are kind of looking for right now. And we know that our building owners are hurting. They need to convert vacant spaces into other uses. And that's limited in the industrial park district. So it seems like a good place to start.
So Leah, what is the pushback on simply moving this to the fall town meeting?
Well, I don't think that that would be problematic. I'm not sure about the May special town meeting. And again, that may be something that's really set aside.
Yeah, it sounds like it is based on Kathy's comments, so. I mean, if, honestly, if I heard from the EDC that this is a critical, extremely time-sensitive thing, then that would be a different, I might have a different take on this, but if,
I mean,
given,
one thing I do want to add is that behind the scenes, we've been pursuing some technical assistance to simply have the zoning reviewed along Route 9 by MAPC. And we don't know whether or not that's going to be awarded. We should know probably this next month.
Just lost Julia.
well, in any case, it seems like, based on what Leah just said, the EDC doesn't feel that it has to be at the April town meeting, so.
Can I just add to Mimi? I worry if we piecemeal it in, somebody's going to ask at town meeting, well, are you going to be coming back? And they're going to say, why didn't you just do it all at the same time? Again, there's already 2 zoning things already on there. And I think we should focus on those. So,
Right. I'd rather do it right than do it fast. So we can put this aside for a bit until we get through these other hearings. Okay. Anything else on, oh, is Leah back? Are you back, Leah?
Yeah, I'm not sure if my audio is working. Can you
It
hear
did,
me?
you went out for a minute.
Well, what I was going to say is that we had put in a technical assistance application to MAPC to simply review the zoning along Route 9. The other piece of this is that we want to pursue a state one-stop grant application for a corridor study of Route 9, which will look at zoning, but it will look at many other aspects at present. And that's going to be in conjunction with Westboro and Northborough. And so in other words, you know, there's changes that need to happen with the zoning in the commercial districts along Route 9. This was only meant to be a start. It's by no means the end of the changes or updates that need to be made, but it was just something to introduce. And if you don't feel that you have the time to do it by April 7th, I mean, we'll defer to you and your schedule. So in other words, help is hopefully on the way from either our regional planning agency and or the state. But this was something that we were trying to do at a local level to take a first stab at this, just to get the ball rolling and provide relief for building owners along the corridor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else on this? So consensus is fall. Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 250 Turnpike Road, 40B status and planning board comments to the zoning board.
So this, I believe the continued public hearing for the 40B permit with the ZBA is coming up. Is it February 12th as well? I'll have to look. It's on the website. No, the last meeting for the 250 Turnpike 40B was January 22nd. And I believe they continued it. I'll have to check the website. But the goal for this evening is if the planning board wants to provide a comment letter to the ZBA. And what I included in the packet was Howard Stein Hudson is the civil site peer reviewer. And they addressed several of the, they identified several comments. So if there was something that wasn't picked up in there that you felt you wanted to draw attention to, I know that one of the comments is that one of the concerns was the property lines changing based on what's in front of the planning board for permitting now. But I think Attorney Banan had explained that they're just trying to work through and see what comes out of that. And then they'll reflect that in a modification if it changes or impacts the current major site plan and lid for the contractor's yard building. And the storage facility that's there, since that's one site.
February 26th
February 26th.
is the next CBA meeting on this. So if we're going to write a letter, we should have something tonight because our next meeting's the 27th.
February 10th, we have a meeting. So we still have February.
Oh, we
10th.
have February 10th.
Right. So if everybody wants to maybe stew on any comments that they want to include, then you could send them to us. We'll culminate one letter and then we'll have it ready for the 10th for everybody to review, and that might be a way to do it, to spearhead that.
How's that sound? Yep.
What was the day you want us to give you our feedback?
So the plan, so our next meeting is February 10th. So if you give it to us next week sometime, so maybe, what's today is 4th, yeah. So on February 4th, get your individual comments to us. Don't reply all, and we'll culminate a letter, a draft letter, and then we'll distribute it to the planning board. And you can remove and add, if you come up with anything else.
I just wanted to compliment Howard Stein and Hudson. I think it's a much more transparent process. They previously, for 120, they had like a side meeting with the proponent's engineer, which is fine. But then they just sent a letter saying resolved, 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 and no one knew what happened. But they sent a letter that outlined their meeting and what was discussed and what they're expecting. And I just thought that was fabulous.
There was a lot of information to take in between this and Lucas,
Yes.
between the two.
Yes. So prior to our next meeting on the 10th, send comments. So we'll give Karina and Colleen time to write a letter with the comments in it. And then we'll have that to discuss on the 10th.
Okay, and just note that we did get a comment letter via email copied to us that was from John Palmer, 131 Parkerville Road, resident, to David Williams, Chair of the ZBA, with his comments as well. So that's, I forward that to you, or Colleen did a couple weeks ago, last week. So you should have a copy of that letter. And then there's also some information from the DCR and wetland setbacks required near public surface water drinking supplies. I'll forward that to you if you haven't, but I believe that's in the Dropbox. Just some of the considerations that are in front of, that might be 120. I have to check back. I'm sorry, I'm confused, but there was something to do with a wetland setback.
That was 250.
That was 250, okay.
120 is done.
120 is done, yes.
All right, moving on. The next item, planners report.
Okay, I'm gonna try and make this quick. So, we want to ask the planning board, Al Hamilton asked to be on an upcoming agenda to do a short, maybe 15, 20-minute presentation on their interest in a wastewater treatment plant for the town and what the status of that. So he and a couple other folks have been looking at potential wastewater treatment plant locations and things to do with that. I don't have all the details, but he asked for February 24th. So Mimi was going to ask as chair if that works for you.
We're thinking of maybe coming in a little early that night, like
Oh,
at
yeah.
6,
6 o'clock.
and to give him time before all the hearings start, if that's okay with everyone.
I will be joining remotely. I will be out of town, but I will attend remotely. Yeah, that'll work.
6 work? Everybody else, is that okay? Okay,
Okay.
That's on February 24th.
February-
correct. Yes, he
That's our
couldn't
next
make the
meeting,
10th.
right? No, February 24th.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't available on the 10th to go to that meeting. Okay, so I also want to point out that Mark Purple got a email today with a letter from what did he say here?
Secretary Augustus.
Yes, with Secretary Augustus clarifying that Southborough previously determined to be in interim compliance with MBTA Communities Law under its implementing guidelines remains in interim compliance with the laws under EOHLC's emergency regulations. So because they didn't the state didn't promulgate the regulations properly, they have an emergency regulations that filled that in, and they're letting us know that we're still in compliance. The MBTA Communities bylaw was reviewed by the AG's office and approved and were posted last week, I believe, by town clerk, which makes them in effect back to the town meeting date of September 30th, I think it was. Grab my. I sent you, we got notice from Lara Davis, CBA, of 3 public hearings coming up. It's the 132 sign application, special permit, 257 Turnpike. It's a special permit for multiple principal uses. So they don't have to keep coming back for a special permit every time they change or add a use or change a use. 6 Lorenzo Drive, there's a special permit for more than 3 garage bays. So we sent that to you. Let's see what this.
So when are those public hearings going to start?
They are starting on February 12th at ZBA.
Oh, those are not.
Those aren't us, those are notices, so they're
thank you.
required, ZBA is required to notify planning board of upcoming public hearings. Mark Purple sent out a good email Friday. The governor is refiling a bill next week that will include making hybrid and remote meetings permanent. So Mimi had asked that a few weeks ago and we didn't have an answer yet. So we'll keep our eyes open for exactly when that's going to happen.
That was a question that was bouncing around on the mass
Master
planner
planner.
listserv also.
Yeah. So we have that Permit Extension Act, which was passed as part of a bill that tolls permits that were in effect or in existence or issued between January 1st, 2023 and January 1st, 2025. And I reached out to town council because we had, the Bartolinis were asking about their subdivision for 96 Mount Vickery, how that, could they get an official letter? And town council says that really needs no response or any official process. They're just automatically told under that law. So I'll let Mike Bartolini know that since he asked. They have asked for a pre-construction meeting upcoming, but they have to satisfy some pre-construction conditions with conservation before that can happen. Talked about the AGO approved the article. Since you got latest orders, do that. We had a department meeting this morning. And it was some information about the special town meeting in May, for the Neary School, the new virtual meeting bill that will keep, the new virtual meeting is going to be, the virtual meeting is going to be permanent. So nothing being some upcoming training, so there wasn't anything right there. And that's about it. And we have minutes.
I'd like to move the planning board accept the meeting minutes from November 4th, 2024.
Second.
With a motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Stein, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
The motion is for the planning board to accept the meeting minutes from December 2nd, 2024.
Second with discussion. So I provided edits to Karina and Colleen on Monday morning to the December notes.
You did. Yes.
Yes.
I have them.
Okay.
But I didn't post them up on the Dropbox.
Okay.
If you tell us what they are, the planning board could still vote on, and then we could edit that and let it go.
Yeah, you would move that.
Or I could withdraw the motion.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there was nothing substantive. It was mostly Scrivener's errors. So it was correcting names, comma, placement, things like that. So there's nothing of substance that I had made suggestions on. So if you guys are comfortable that I just called them the MLH edits version.
Yep, we can make, I looked at them. I just didn't have a
Yep.
chance to upload them.
Does for me. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, Latrell, yes.
Stein, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
The motion is for the planning board to accept the meeting minutes from December 16th, 2024.
Second.
I have discussion. Anyone else?
I didn't see it.
Line 53, submitted to ZBA.
So we're on January 6th? No, I'm sorry.
December
December
16th.
I went the wrong way. 9:53.
Good catch, Marnie.
Yeah.
Mimi, excuse me.
Just read the sentence.
I just said submitted to ZBA.
Submitted to CBA, so somewhere in here, should be somewhere near 53. I'll find it.
This is 17.
Ugh. Here it is.
I recommend, I
Submitted
recognize that Debbie Demone was with the-
to the ZBA right here.
Yes,
Got it, okay.
and then 58, it
Yep.
says waiting for mass housing
Waiting for mass housing.
response, but what they're waiting for is determination of eligibility.
Okay.
That's it. Anyone else? So I have a motion and a second, no further discussion, all in favor. Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
And the next motion is for the planning board to accept the meeting minutes from December 17th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor. Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
And finally, I move that the planning board accept the meeting minutes from January 6th, 2025.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, and then Marnie had some edits on that one too.
That
So,
was from the last time. Yep.
okay, so any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor. Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
And I just wanted to say, nice job, Susan. That was a lot of minutes.
100%.
And,
Like, huge applause,
did an
particularly the
awesome
tree
job.
hearing.
Yeah,
That one was amazing.
awesome job.
Agreed. Move to adjourn.
Hallelujah. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor. Latrell, yes?
Stein, yes?
Houlihan, yes.
Demiria, yes.
Brascio, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.